I'm signing in to go live, so here you go.
Hey, everybody, we're live. Welcome to our first ever FAQnatics live stream. We've got a great group of people joining us in here. We've been chatting in the back for a little bit, and now we are ready to go live. Let's go ahead and kick this off. Of course, we've got to have a video to be able to start this off with. And look at that. We're going to go ahead and bring in all of our guests. We've got a lot of people to be able to discuss in there. We've got one more coming in on his way with Todd Anderson, but this is an all-star cast, you guys. I have never been on this side of the studio before. We were all talking about this. Most of these guys have never been on that side of the studio before.
Nope.
But,
that's fair.
We are all trying new things here. So I appreciate everybody swinging in here. We've got a great panel. I'm going to let everybody kind of introduce themselves and maybe how we've kind of chatted in there. So we'll go ahead and start with over to my right. So DJ, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Brett? Thank you for having me here. This is I'm the one in the room that everybody's like, what's he doing there?
That's exactly what I thought when I showed up. I was like, what's this guy?
Well, you backed out, and then Brett had to call you and say, no, he's not that bad.
I had enough on your 28,000 hour stream.
Exactly.
Yeah, DJ at brightsidehometheater.com. Brightside of Home Theater. I talk about the stuff that's on the other side. We talk gear too, but the movies and scenes and stuff, that's my channel, and that's what I've been trying to do. Keeping it positive, having fun. So thanks for having me, Brett. It really is amazing to be here.
I love it. And just so everybody knows on here, as Giles was saying, so DJ recently crossed 1,000 subscribers. And just in that, and we'll have Todd on here in a little bit. Absolutely. But we recently did a 24-hour podcast, and I think half the people in here were on that. So
yeah.
So again, great way to be able to to kind of check that out, get everybody on there. So he had tons of guests on there, a lot of good info on there, and it was a blast. So I think I went on at 11 o'clock and left at 2 or 3 a.m.
You went till the end.
So yeah, so
literally.
Absolutely. So next to him, I've got Tim Albright from AVNation. How's it going, Tim?
It is going fantastic. And DJ, I would also say that I'm the guy that I'm not sure quite why, I'm the odd man out as well. Because these guys are all, they do this stuff for a living. I just cover it. So AVNation, avnation.tv is the channel. We cover both commercial and the residential side of gear, how it interfaces with people's lives, both at work and at home. So the channel is primarily for AV enthusiasts, as well as people who interact with it, support it, whether that's corporate or higher education or any place in between.
Yep. And so Tim is great. I was saying earlier in the green room, Tim and I go all the way back to, I think I first did an interview with him when I was at Logitech working for Harmony. So like I said, he's a great addition to the industry. Every CEDIA, generally speaking, we get to see him out there, him and Matt on his team as well. And so it's always been a blast to be able to connect with them and fun to be able to jump in and on the other side. And then I think we'll talk about it a little bit more later on. But I'm probably going to be doing a little bit of writing with Tim coming up here soon. So should have already started. So apologize for that, Tim. But
you've been a little busy.
Apologize publicly, but like I said, I'm looking forward to it. It's a great group. I've watched him for years on the integrator side and the professional side to get a hang of things. And now as we do more, like I said, I thought it was important to have him on there. So if we continue around the clockwise. Mr. Michael Stevens. So how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm great. Doing good. So my channel is pretty much just primarily home theater. I've just been a passionate home theater enthusiast myself since the days of Dolby Pro Logic. And that's where my journey started many, many years ago. And so just I enjoy sharing other people's passion on my channel. So I do a lot of home theater tours. I've got one lined up in January. I just found out today with Wisdom Audio and Storm Audio here in Florida. It's a Star Wars themed home theater. Super dope, man. It looks cool. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Do home theater reviews as well. And just trying to really just encourage the community, build up people, educate, as well as just provide inspiration, for people that want to get into the hobby, kind of teaching them what they can do, even on a budget. Because I really believe that everybody can have a home theater. That may not be a dedicated home theater, but you can have one in a living room, a bedroom. And then we started my own AV event 2 years ago called M-Wave. So really just providing, opportunities for people to have these cool home theater experiences. And so just glad to be here, man.
Oh, I love it. And similarly, like I said, I've known Michael for a couple years now. I think the first video we did together was with Steve Ellison Systems over in Dallas during
Dude, they just got some massive upgrades too. I got to take another.
Did you see that? So big old video wall, you guys. We may have to talk about that either in this or another discussion, but video walls versus projectors, right? But
that's a good topic.
Beautiful room. Maybe we'll have to do that. We'll have to get Elliston on here and we'll make him defend his position.
That's a hot topic.
It looks great in there. Joey's chiming on there. Second time today joining Brett on the live stream. That is correct.
Yep.
Some of you guys may have seen it more on the integrator side, but this morning I actually did a training webinar live stream on networked audio. So again, new hot topic in there. You guys have mostly all seen the theater that we did in Sound Room 10 this year at CEDIA.
Yep.
And so I had Anthony Grimani on this morning, and I had Matt from Storm Audio. And so great discussion on networked audio, AES 67, Dante, and how it benefits, how it's been used on the commercial side, but more importantly, how it can be used on the residential side. So I will chop that up and get it up there for everybody on the consumer side to be able to check out as well. So in the far background, I know he's having some camera issues, you were saying before. I'm used to seeing him, when you see Matt in the morning getting his gains on at 4:00 in the morning, he looks so much bigger. But we've got Matt Blair from Brolic Media. So what's going on, Matt?
Hey, Brett, how are you doing, man?
Oh man, I love you.
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely great to be here. I'm very excited. So I'm Matthew Blair. I'm an alleged YouTuber. I used to drop about 20 videos a year. Now I drop 2 videos a year. Having 3 kids will do that to you. I'm the owner of Blair High Performance Solutions, BlairHPS.com. We are an AV integration company, and I am a diehard enthusiast. So I left my systems engineering career doing this and enjoying it very, very much.
I love it. And like I said, Matt's a great guy. Matt and I first started chatting when we were when I was at Kaleidoscape and building out the training for that group. And he had taken some classes, joined my live streams and webinars there. And like I said, we've been friends ever since, and working together, and always trying to find ways to help each other out. So Matt, appreciate you being on here, and always a good time. He also makes great videos. I think actually that was where I first saw you, Matt. Was he had dropped, I think, on this next gentleman's page, a testimonial video that was so incredibly well done on his Kaleidoscape system. And that was actually one of the first.
I remember that video. It wasn't on my page, but that was a awesome testimonial. Holy smokes, it was good. I watched it and I was all like, dang, why's it got to make me feel bad about myself? It was really good. I mean, really, really good.
No, I love it. I love it. So, but speaking of which, we've got Giles McCoy, and Giles, your show and your channel is now the Giles McCoy channel, right? So
it just depends what social you're on. So on YouTube, I'm just Giles McCoy. Everywhere else, I'm the Giles McCoy, because apparently there's so many of them out there. I don't know. I think that's kind of representative of me trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, which I always I decide, and then I change, and then I decide, and my channels have all had like 4 names. Like every year, it's like I'm changing my socks or something. But I do mostly YouTube and Instagram, and I'm primarily a tech channel, and I cover hi-fi, gaming, home theater, mobile, PC. So I've decided that I can't decide on a really single niche, which is like the worst thing that you can do in social media. But I love so many things that I'm passionate about so much that I find myself wanting to create content and talk about all these different things. So I do, right? I'm like, okay, I like to do it, so I'm going to talk about all these things. Professionally, I work in IT, and I've been doing that for, almost 30 years now. Outside of the socials for Giles McCoy, I do other social media things. We have a travel channel together with my wife, and we travel around the world and film, hotel reviews and that kind of thing. We find a lot of enjoyment there, and it's something fun that we can do together. And I let her edit because we argue too much if I try and get involved in that. So she has full creative control. I speak at IT conferences and hi-fi conferences and stuff like that. So yeah, I just have fun. I love talking with folks, and this is actually my favorite thing to do. Hop on a panel style discussion and chat with folks about things that we all love. So this is great.
No, I love it. Me too. And that's why I wanted to pull everybody together here. And last but not least, not on there, we're going to give him a big entrance because he was late. But we have our friend. We're even going to give him a full screen here. Let's see.
That's you.
Click on the head of him.
That's right. We've got Todd Anderson. So what's going on, Todd?
What's up? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry I'm late. Having some tech problems. Hey, it's my show all of a sudden.
That's right.
There you go.
So Todd, you're perfect in time. I left you in the background while we had everybody else doing it, but we're just kind of introducing ourselves and what channels you're doing and what you kind of focus on. A lot of us again probably know who you are, but give us a quick shout out, Todd.
All right. Todd Anderson. I co-own AVNirvana. It's a home theater forum that we founded almost 6 years ago. I guess I really identify as a writer more than anything. I'm not a huge fan of the whole video creation side of things, even though I'm doing a lot more of that these days. Have a couple different shows that I've started up, HDMI Test Bench, where we're testing HDMI equipment, Base Hunters, which is my favorite thing that has not really seen the light of day recently, but it's coming back, I promise.
You got to tell everybody it's not a fishing channel.
It's not a fishing channel.
Doesn't know.
We're hunting for baits. Yeah, it's been on hold for a little bit for a number of different reasons, but we have some episodes coming out soon. And one of the things that really gets me churning is just following the industry trends and the industry news. Brett, I know you know that I've been kicking around this news show, and it's going to turn into a weekly thing as long as news being generated. But we tried monthly and with some high production value, and it just was too much work. So we have a new weekly news show on top of our forum. We have about 65,000 registered members, something like that, on our forum. We're the official help forum for Roomy Q Wizard. A lot of you out there probably know REW. And then, it's just a super friendly forum environment. So all of you should be coming on over and checking it out.
Yeah.
And I also review products on top of that.
There you go. He is a busy man.
Yeah.
I kind of cover all the bases.
That's right. So, AVNirvana, again, great site. And, for a lot of us, that are more YouTube specific, like I said, it gives you a great opportunity to be able to, read a lot of what's going on out there. Obviously, Roomy Q Wizard is a great tool, that always gets highlighted. I know Anthony Gramani always loves to highlight it whenever I'm on with him. And again, having the FAQ site, and help desk for that is tremendous. So, here's my all-star cast. Like I said, you guys are great. I appreciate you all hopping on here. As everybody can see, everybody's got a slightly different kind of opinion or angle as they kind of cover the industry, right? And chat about stuff. And that's what I love with this, and always getting to chat with a bunch of different people. So, I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of kick off my site. And so my new site is FAQnatics. So it's a little bit of a hybrid there in the FAQ side, since I'm usually doing trainings and answering questions from those frequently asked questions. And then, Fanatics. Like I said, I absolutely love this stuff. The guys that I talk to are ultra passionate about this. And so, I wanted to create a site that, again, if we're talking home theaters, I go onto these people's sites, or from the manufacturing side, like I said, I come to these guys because these guys know what's going on. We don't need another. Granted, people love to have more channels and they don't really take away from each other. But I didn't want to just create another home theater site. Obviously, that's something that I'm super passionate about. But if anybody that's followed me or watched me on discussions before, I actually do a lot of stuff. And so, I got my start actually on the finance side of things. And so I think I was 16 when I started on the banking side, working my junior, senior year in high school. So just teller stuff, no big deal. Back when you could hire people under 18 to do that kind of thing, I always thought it was cool. By the time I was 17, we'd have to fill ATMs. And I would have a bag because I was usually one of the few guys, right? But I'm like 17 years old. I'd have a bag of about $120,000 in 20s.
Jeez.
Walking around the, one end, the ATMs on one side, ATMs on another. But it was a blast, and they moved me over to kind of new accounts, customer support kind of stuff. Loved it. And then actually got a job when I was 20 at Smith Barney. Was there on the kind of on the account side, so the support side. Ended up running operations temporarily, and then had a couple brokers that asked me to kind of work with them, and got my license and did a whole bunch of stuff. And I think I was the youngest hire at Smith Barney ever on a permanent side. So it was kind of cool. I loved it. I had always been into it. I think the day after I turned 18, I opened up my first account at Schwab. So like I said, I was always into it. But then, really just as you go to school, as you do other stuff, wasn't quite what I wanted to do. And then ended up, as I was going back to school, working at getting a job. I was actually buying my first AV receiver, right? So this must have been 2000, I guess, 2000. And so was going in to buy my first Sony, AV 5.1 channel receiver, an upgrade from my Marantz 2 channel that I had, and I think bummed off of my parents before I knew what it was actually really, really worth in the grand scheme of it. And ended up chatting with the manager there who was helping me out, and he offered me a job on the spot, and so it was a blast. Ended up running 5 stores in 4 years, kind of being a fixer. So they bring me into a store that was maybe having some issues, and I'd kind of, run through it, teach the guys, this is how we talk about audio, and try to instill some passion in them from that perspective and get the store up and running. And then as soon as I could, not work 6 days, 7 days a week, and open and close, then they'd move me over to another store. So it was a blast, but it was definitely, it was a hectic time. And so, and then got recruited over to the manufacturing side. I've worked for large companies like Logitech, running their product development for the commercial side and integrator side for Logitech and Harmony, and small companies like Bowers and Wilkins, as well as last was Kaleidoscape. And what I really found was, especially on the manufacturing side, we were getting into a place where we used to have trainers. When I first started out, when I was actually running Good Guy stores, trainers were a big thing. You'd have 10, 12, 15 trainers nationwide for a lot of these big companies, and they'd go out and train locally. And really, as a lot of those things kind of died out, manufacturers stopped hiring them in. And so, one of the things that I found is not enough manufacturers really creating in-depth training that's designed to answer questions. And I think a lot of us have found this, and probably why there's a lot of us have created channels, is for the ability to be able to talk with people and dig into those products. Because oftentimes we walk into a store and we may feel like we know more than the guy at the store, right? I mean, that's something that I think a lot of us kind of see. And so, my hope and really what this site is about from the technology side is to be able to answer a lot of those questions, and not just with opinion, although obviously I have my own personal ones, but really digging in, bringing in the manufacturer. I like to use an example I was using recently when Dirac Live came out. It was interesting to see all these people in the forums talking about how good or bad it was when none of them had yet.
Right.
And I think that's something that we see a lot, right? In all reality, and everybody wants to be the first to break it, and start talking about it. But do they really know what they're talking about? And so I was chatting with the CEO of Dirac, about Dirac Live and saying, hey, if you're going to learn about it, why wouldn't you want to learn about it from the guys who invented it, right? From their engineering team or from their CEO. And so, that's a lot of what I'll be covering is not just here's an opinion on this type of product, but how does the technology work? What's in there? A little bit more brand agnostic, but talking about the technology, whether it's home theater equipment, but then also in the larger scheme of things, products like lighting control, shades. I think we all love to be super passionate about this industry, but the reality is it's a niche industry, right? And so if you start talking about things like lighting control, that affects everybody, whether or not you're putting a dedicated in. And if we can talk about lighting control in the theater, even better. But like I said, I wanted to be able to kind of spread it out. We'll talk about a few of the different topics in here kind of coming up, but it's a great journey. I love the idea of having, again, guests like these, manufacturers, industry experts, to be able to come in and talk about, various categories of products in order to better educate the consumer so that you guys can make your own choices. So that's kind of the idea.
Woohoo! Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. And congrats, Brett.
Well, and that's one of the things, and I'll let you guys, ask, but, kind of like I was saying, it feels like, now granted, there are some great stores out there that do a great job, but it seems like more and more the manufacturers are expecting us to do a lot of the digging and oftentimes having to go to YouTube sites and other sites to kind of get your opinions on things, right? And so because often when you go into the stores, they don't know as much about it as we do, and I've used that. I know we had the same issue with Kaleidoscape a lot. If you go back 2 or 3 years ago before I started building things out, and all of you guys have frankly helped with that. So, what do you guys think about that? When it comes into manufacturers, are you finding that the manufacturers are giving enough information out there, or is that the hole that you guys are trying to fill? And what do you think manufacturers should be doing better?
Well, I'm kind of new. So what I'm just seeing at this, just having been to my first CEDIA, having talked to some manufacturers before, cutting out that middleman. But what I'm understanding from, you got manufacturers, you got, dealers, and then you have the consumers. And I think what you're doing with this channel and what we've all been trying to do is give opinions and educate people in the best way you can so that they can get that information. And how I met you, Brett, years ago was exactly that. And I think the better manufacturers right now are actually skipping the dealer in the middle because people don't know who to listen to. And the manufacturers I've talked to, the passionate ones, they're trying to get, their information out there. And I think everybody going onto the internet or social media, whatever, they're looking for honest opinions because they're not sure if the dealers are just trying to sell them something or if they're trying to push what they need. And so they're coming to places like this to try to get as many opinions as they can. And I think that's what manufacturers have to do, is try to jump over that dealer. And that actually makes the job easier for the dealers too, because when you have somebody come in that knows what they want, and they're a little bit more educated and have an idea, now the dealer can, be trusted a little bit more, so they're happier. Everybody's happier all around, in my opinion.
And there's an old line, I think it was from Men's Warehouse commercial: an educated consumer is our best client.
Yep.
Right. And I've used that for years.
Sure.
I would say the top tier, the bigger manufacturers, they have their own content creation teams, and some of it is market fluff, right? But some of it is education. So you have that silo of information. Then you got what everybody on this stream is doing, and that is an unbiased, our assessment of it. But the other part of that is, it is feedback from the clients, right, and customers, and that can be the form of reviews, that can be the form of some sort of rating system on Amazon so you kind of cobble all those things together, and that's what we need to give the customers, the people using this technology, because all of us have a bias of some way, shape, or form, right? Every time that Brett reminds us that he was involved with the Harmony remote, a little piece of my heart dies, because I still think that was the best home theater remote. But it's not there anymore, right? But that's my bias, and so you cobble all those things together. Folks going to CEDIA and pulling out of, let's say, the smaller manufacturers, the mid-level manufacturers who don't have the capital, don't have the opportunity to make their own content. They can sub it out, right? They can hire other people to do it, or they can rely on their dealers, which a lot of them also do. Folks that are doing social media content and YouTube content, and you put all those things together, and it's not perfect, right? But it's the best solution that we have today.
No, totally agree. And that's where, a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do, and as I started my own business, which is Market Maker. So, different from this is more consumer side. And then, like I said, I was hosting this morning, more on the integrator side, on the professional side. The whole idea and the premise of that business was just like you were saying, Tim. The big companies, they have the budget for this, right? And so they still have it. Sometimes it may be a little older and can use some new refresh, because the reality is video is the new way of doing things, and integration is, and better engagement and things like that. But for a lot of these small companies, which is really what a lot of us like, right? What we call the CEDIA industry, but really it's those higher performing products, right? Those Storms, those Trinovs, those, whatever speaker you want to talk about. Gramani Systems or a Perlisten or L Acoustics or any of these brands, they're small. They feel big to us when you start looking at it, or it's a 50-inch subwoofer from Ascendo. That's big no matter what. But the reality is these are small companies that often don't have the budget to be able to bring in somebody full time. And so on my business side of things, that's what I try to do, is how can I create trainings for those small businesses that don't need somebody full time, or maybe can't afford to have somebody full time, but still want to get good information out there. And that's what I try to do, and then that's where I'll match up with, hey, I'm going to be on Giles show this week, or we're going to talk about this, product or that product, from more of a professional side. But, what I also wanted to do, like this discussion that I had this morning on networked audio, it's a private, the video gets out there, it's 2 hours. It's on a private network because it's only kind of for integrators, but I can chop that up and give it out to consumers. Because at the end of the day, I had two amazing experts, Anthony Gramani from Gramani Systems and Matthew Trinkline from Storm Audio. Who better to talk about networked audio, than guys that know how to do this and are building it for a living and actually built, the engineering and building these huge systems, right? So I love it from that perspective. Michael, you do.
Hey, bro, yeah, I think it's a good niche.
What's that, Matt?
I was gonna say, yeah, I think you're filling a very important niche that a lot of other companies really need to take note of, because in any industry, even outside of ours, if you're a company that's not large enough to just throw money until your problem is solved as far as communication, then if you're a small company, relationships are everything. Relationships are how you educate your dealers. They're how you cause your dealers to want to go with you, to recommend your product versus your competitor's product. And then it also helps to build trust with the customer base. When the customers trust the dealers and then the dealers trust the manufacturers, everybody's happy. So larger companies, just throw $100 bills at it and then eventually it'll be solved. But for the smaller companies, yeah, they need their Bretts to really handle that relationship part.
Again, I agree and I appreciate that. And I think that's where, by all means, that's where we need guys like you guys too, on the YouTube channel side, because people are, it's shifting where people get their information from. And, like DJ said earlier, there are some great integrators out there that are trustworthy and, and you can walk into and get great information from. I know a lot of them. And I'll probably have them on the shows from time to time so that people in local areas know who to go to. Yeah. But at the same time, if you're spending whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, it's right to be skeptical in some of these things, right? Or how do I know that this is the product that I need or the feature set that I need? What am I paying for when I'm getting this? And I think having those solid integrators is important. So those dealers that you can go to, because they should be there. They used to be there, back in the days when we had Tweeter and Good Guys and, all these local brands that people love to go and shop to. We had people that made a good living doing that and helping people out. And I think a lot of that has shifted over, and sometimes rightfully so. I want different opinions, right? I want to go and I want to be able to watch Giles' show because I can, talk about a product. And then the next day I can go on to, to Michael's show, or I can go on to Todd's show, and learn more about that product, right? And make sure, does all this jive up? Or one person's going to look at it from one perspective, somebody else is going to look at it from a different perspective. So I think that side of it is great. I just think that manufacturers need to make sure that they are putting forward that same effort. And all you guys know, I've been on all your shows. It's on my own. Manufacturers are so afraid, especially nowadays, it seems like, of getting canceled for saying the wrong thing, right? And sometimes you have to be careful in who you put on there. You put in too dry. I know we've had this conversation a few times with different people. Sometimes the conversation is just a little too dry. It's too engineering focused. And nobody wants.
I'll take care of that.
There you go. But it's important to have both, right? You need that entertainment value. You need people that are passionate about it. And at the same time aren't so protective of their brand that they can't, open up to what somebody else is saying. Right. And I think that's an important piece in there as well, where you can't be so much like, no, my product's the only great product out there. You have to be objectively able to say, no, there's other good products, but here's what makes mine special.
That's an important point though, dude, because you have to find, and some of this is you're preaching to the choir here, right? Because all of us on this call get that. I wish you could have a panel of manufacturers, and all of us can probably give you a list of folks who need that talk, because there are some folks who think that their product is, and the people who love their product are second to a religion, right? And they are 100%. There are evangelists out there, and they can do no wrong, and their products are always perfect, and their product is the only one that you need. That's not true. Right. And I'm not a fan of the term "it depends," but every home theater, it depends. Right. It depends on the size of the space. It depends on what you're trying to do. It depends on what you like to watch. Yep. Right. I am a huge football fan. DJ is all into movies, and I love movies. I must understand. But if I had to give you a percentage, 75% of the time that's in my home theater, it's a sport of some sort. Right now, it's horrible Bears football, but it is what it is. Right. But all of those things are determinate. Those are deterministic factors that make up the design and the implementation of your theater. What you put in for a home theater to watch movies primarily is 100% is different completely than the type of system that you need to put in to watch sports or some other other kind of content.
Yep. I think that makes perfect sense, especially when you start looking at screen dimensions and things like that, right? Everybody starts hunting for what's the right size, what's the right ratio for screen. Totally depends. What am I watching? If I'm watching,
right.
Well, I need the 16:9 versus if I'm watching mainly movies, nowadays it's going to be 2.35, 2.4, right? And so it's understanding those things, that the integrator, the dealer used to be known for, right? And again, still is in many cases. But that's where I think everybody here is doing a great service for getting that information out there, providing their perspective on things. And then, like I said, I think that doesn't remove the responsibility of the manufacturer to be able to talk about that, and that's where I think there are great brands that are out there that I'm happy to shout out for. When I watch people, like I said, I'm a big fan of Storm, and Matthew does a great job when he's out there, Gary Blouse and those guys. When you look at, John from Trinov, again, great guy. I love doing shows with him and going out there. He's an engineer that's got a great personality for it. And even the other day I watched people, some guys had some questions about, acoustically transparent screens, and I'm watching. So I'm in a lot of these forums, right? Like a lot of us in here that are passionate about it. So I'm in probably 24 home theater forums that kind of takes up my, my scrolling. But I'm watching and I just bump into Chris Seymour, who is literally giving answers to people who have questions about acoustically transparent screens and what types of thing. It wasn't should I buy a Seymour screen versus something else? And he didn't even bring up his brand. He was only explaining how things worked. And, this guy happened to be asking, like, I want to be able to do 2-channel music in addition to my movies. Can I do that behind a screen, or do I need to, put them outside? And Chris is on there answering just agnostic questions on a forum, at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, on a weeknight. And I'm popping in there because I don't know that everybody always thinks about it, right? You don't see the names you see, but he's using Chris Seymour. And I literally put a comment on there. I'm like, no better answer than to get it from Chris Seymour of Seymour Screens.
Right.
I think those are the things that really drive this channel, and get people to understand that, it's not just the lowest cost product. It's give me a value for that product, right? Give me a community that's going to support that product. And I think that's a big piece around this. And like I said, I think it's great when I watch, Giles, like I said, coming from the other side of the show, has always been great. Hey, you want to come on? What are we talking about? DJ, same thing. All you guys have kind of done those things. And I think that's great because you do want that relationship between the manufacturer directly. Let's get that good information, and combining it in a way that, that your viewers are going to want to watch and learn from, more than anything else.
Yeah, I was like, Michael's building a home theater community. We're all trying to build like a home theater community. But part of that, I think what it is like, for instance, I recognize you separated Todd and I by as much screen as you could because he's a 235 guy. I'm a 16:9 guy. People need to understand that you can still get along if you're on the opposite side of those aisles, right? And it's like, but that's part, and I mean, Tim's like,
get along. What does that really mean?
Can you move me away from DJ now? Timmy's like,
right.
But it's the idea of, without these shows, without these channels, people, they don't necessarily need to hear the other side. They're also looking for confirmation of, oh crap, that guy's just like me. So I'll have listeners on, guests on, and be like, they'll tell me about their past and everything. And you're like, and I get all these comments of like, I'm just like that. And it's a relief to people. And it's like, people are sitting at home and they're reading all the negative stuff about a product they just bought. And then they're like, because that's what everybody likes to do on the internet. And you need places where you can see different opinions, different ideas, relate to other people. And then you get two people like Todd and I that disagree on a lot of things, but we're laughing and joking and having a good time with it, because it's like Tim said, there's so many variables to things. What do you want to do? And to see that from, many different sides, you start to understand like, oh man, there isn't one answer. There's no right or wrong answer. Let's just have fun with it.
There is no DJ. The answer is you fill up your entire wall with screens, and then you do an electronic mask that either goes into 16:9 or 2.
Right.
That's the only correct answer.
Image area. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about my fee for this show, and then maybe we'll do that.
That's right. So I love it. No, nothing's on there going, everyone's wearing glasses. That's right. That's how you know we're smart. I don't need these.
We're old.
Mine are fake.
Actually, I had to just get a new prescription about 2 weeks ago, but I do need these. Probably the first time in there really before the reading. But But
I've
that's
known-
what, you know, that's how you can tell how smart we are is by our wearing.
I've known Todd for years. He's had glasses. Michael and Giles, I just met and was like, I gotta be in the club.
That's right.
Like, what the hell? All the cool kids are doing it.
That's right. That's right. I saw that on there too. And we got Joe. Joe. So
Joe.
I think, again, most of you guys know Joe. I will give, and again, Joe knows I love him for this stuff. He actually lives near me. We're only about 20, 30 minutes away from each other. But Joe, who is all over all the podcasts, is actually one of the first people that introduced me to a lot of you guys. So he introduced me to Giles, and he introduced me to DJ officially.
Yeah.
So, you know, when people were talking, as we talk about Kaleidoscape and other products, it was like, you know, hey, I saw this guy. Hey, yeah, I know Brett. I'll get you on there. So, like I said, always a big fan of Joe. He will definitely be on some shows in the future since he's so close. I can actually have him live in with me.
Yep.
And that's one of the things too, you guys, as we look at kind of what I'm building. So one of the cool things that I got to do recently. So I was in my house in the Bay Area in San Mateo for the last 20 years. So like I said, we built that house. I was, fortunate enough when I was, younger to be able to kind of tear it down and rebuild it up. And so laid every square inch of cable, pulled a couple miles of cable in that house. So I think I've got wired for 3 surround systems, but had 2 actively running, 8 zones of distributed audio, all with their own, separate zones and things like that. And then a full 42 space rack to be able to hold it all. Right. So you just had a TV in a room, speakers in the ceiling. That was it. And so we ended up been there, loved it. And then we ended up having the opportunity. My wife started looking at this house and she absolutely loved it. And then I started looking at the opportunities as I was kind of starting to grow my business. And so recently we actually just moved into a new place up in Sacramento. So up in, farther northern California. But it's a tremendous house because it's got a lot of problems now. Like most houses, the house is only 10 years old, so it's great from that. The person who built it was a previous owner and an amazing woodworker. So the woodwork in this house and everything else is simply amazing. And so we'll do some different shows on how all that kind of works. But what was amazing is that, this house, and I don't usually talk about this stuff, but I guess I'm going to have to because the idea is kind of informing and educating people on things.
It's your show.
What's that? I know.
It's your show.
I can talk about whatever I want, I guess. But so this house is 5,600 square feet. So it's big by most standards, right? And so and much bigger. My previous place for the last 20 years is 1,980 square feet, so just under 2,000 square feet.
Big jump.
So, but
Nice
the problem with that is no dedicated theater, right? No real dedicated media rooms or any of those kinds of things. I was sitting our bedroom. I've never had a spare bedroom because I had converted it to an office, from the beginning. And so this gave me an opportunity to kind of jump into a space where, hey, I can do some trainings and I can show people, how to build a theater. So we're going to actually take my whole theater project from scratch, and I'm going to record the entire thing so that we can create various content, that people can kind of understand or better understand how to do that. And it's not just going to be, hey, look what I did DIY, although I'll probably be doing most of the work myself. It's going to be, hey, I need to be able to, build a theater with proper acoustics. Who am I going to reach out to? Well, let's go talk with Anthony Grimani. I need to be able to build out, a false wall in the front so that I can, be able to house my LCRs and everything else. So Andrew over at Keith Yates designed some of the best, recessed walls for putting behind your screen that I've ever seen. He really spends a lot of time and attention. So it's not just a cavity that you toss some speakers in. And so I'm going to use that knowledge in engineering to be able to look at how I can build a true A/B comparison room. So the idea is I can actually put 2 systems side by side, recessed into the wall, swap them out if need be. so that either one could have the best rooms possible in a fully tuned, acoustically appropriate room. And then Storm Audio, who I found out at Cedia. So obviously they came out with their networked audio piece, their new ISP Evo. That's a great product. And probably, although still above my general budget range. But I have to take a step up above that and go with the Mark III, because the idea is it can output simultaneously a networked audio feed and an analog XLR audio feed. So I can truly do, without having to get behind everything and move speakers and plug and unplug everything in, I can do a true A/B comparison in a theater environment just by hitting a button, switching between. So I thought that was really cool and kind of a way to be able to do objective testing that is super difficult. I know Todd and I were talking the other day about all the equipment that he has coming in for review, but how do you have the time to be able to set all this stuff up, right? It's a real thing. And so not only do I want a livable theater, because I just enjoy doing it and I want to be able to watch movies, but I wanted to build something that I could do true testing and A/B comparison with, so that people can get objective data. So I thought that was kind of a cool way to be able to do it and get people that are far smarter than me, to be able to do the engineering of that room, to be able to figure out exactly what needs to be in there.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges as a content creator and a reviewer is my theater room literally this morning, it was a train wreck. And I knew my wife and I were going to watch Survivor tonight. So I'm like, all right, let's put it back together so it's functioning and let's watch it together. And then I'll be reviewing some stuff. And so it's constantly unhooking, hooking, changing out, swapping out. And so sometimes I feel like my home theater is like the least calibrated ever, because I'm always changing stuff. And even when I swap something out and I put my stuff back together, sometimes I forget to change this or to do this. I'm like, dang, and so it's definitely a challenge. So eventually, like long term, I would love to have either a studio or just a separate, whether it's a bedroom or a place in my home or a garage or something, that's just where I do my review. But then I've got my own theater that I don't really mess with unless I'm physically updating or changing for my own benefit, kind of thing. And but it's definitely challenging for sure.
Speaking of dreams, I dreamed to have a setup like Linus Tech Tips or Unbox Therapy, because they have a full facility, right? So they build in a warehouse and whatnot.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Have a couple of different stages, and wouldn't it be nice to have just your demo home theater room where you just go in and the whole point of it is set up to demo equipment, and it's not
it'll happen.
Yeah.
That's the dream right there.
Yeah, I mean, I know it will, but it may be 10 years down the road, but it'll happen
one day. Yeah, one day.
Definitely.
Hey, Giles, it's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, we actually just finished doing that in our room. The reason is our personal theater is also our showroom. We have customers come and demo our system. So as we were redoing our room, we wired for everything. So no matter what type of subs, whether there's a rack amp or whether it's active, you plug it directly into the wall. Same with speakers. There are multiple extra runs of speaker wires. So we just finished. So Brett, something to keep in mind, and anybody else who's doing a brand new room build, run extra wires, run XLRs, run RCAs, tuck them behind fabric. And if you ever want to do an A/B comparison, just whip them out.
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing is, thank you to Greg, the awesome ninja there. DJ makes some of the best walls. It's Brett, you and I have chatted. Our rooms are very similar, but for different reasons. Okay. And like I hear Michael on his channel all the time. It's like, I mean, how many videos have you put out about you tripping over stuff?
I've got over 900 videos, but
yeah, no, I know, but you're like, here we go again. And it's great, but that's the life of a reviewer. And Todd and I have talked about it a bunch. I could never do that. I'm the scenes guy. I sit down in my room and I just love to watch stuff over and over, compare it. If I upgrade or something, then I'm going to watch those scenes again. But everything you're describing, Brett, everything Michael wants to do someday, even if you're not a reviewer, all of the stuff that they want to do, I'm doing, but not for that reason. It makes your room future-proof.
Yep.
It's like if you want to, everything I'm doing in my room is designed around future proof so that, I mean, I'm 53 years old now. I can't get up there and start messing inside the walls. I want to move my Atmos speakers or something. They got to be able to be there, but I still want them to be kind of stealthy, right? Or same with the channels on my LCRs across the front, or how do I run stuff down the sides? You know, 10 years from now, who knows what we're going to have for tech, right? And I mean, a lot of people, they have these projector systems, but they can't go to a television yet because their rack is a certain place. They don't want to have to run an HDMI. And there's a lot of issues that go on, and you might not be a reviewer, but watch what these guys do, because if you can incorporate some of that into your build or whatever, it's going to make it more future-proof for you. And that's what, and then you can just change out what you want and upgrade and go from there, regardless of what the tech brings us in the future.
No,
Everybody's stunned.
I'm trying to let somebody else hop in, so it's not always me. But you know, when you have so many people, it's like, yeah, nobody's sure who's talking next. But I think that it's a great point there, DJ, in that, you know, I've been talking about it for years. When, like I said, my last house, 20 years old, right? A ton has changed in this industry in 20 years. When I first got started, my video distribution system was composite video. The yellow cable.
Oh yeah,
that's all you needed, right? Life was easy, right?
S video, yep.
That's right. And then S video. Luckily, that, you know, that was always harder on the distribution side.
Composite, component, S video.
Composite, component, or composite, then S video, then component. I had a component video switch. You know, from Key Digital, or, you know, one of these guys in the past from there, and then an HDMI switch, right? I mean, these technologies have changed so dramatically through the years. And I'm fortunate and have used it multiple times in running what we always call Smurf tubing, right? So usually it's blue, but sometimes it's orange as well now. You know, but running a tube back behind your walls, because if you can do that, you are going to save yourself some headaches as things have gone, and make sure you're running, you know, plenty of nowadays with Ethernet cable, because now Balance have kind of jumped in as a way to help future-proof that as well. But those are the kinds of things that I want to talk about, not necessarily one brand versus another. You know, there's good brands that are out there, and a lot of what I want to be able to talk about is always something in a best, better, good scenario. So what I find, and I see this a lot, and it comes into a lot of the comments, because I'm always reading comments and in the forums, the coolest stuff is often expensive, right? You know, when we're talking about Trinov, we're talking about JL Audio, we're talking about Storm and Seymour screens and all these different things. A lot of times, especially for us that are maybe reviewing products or doing this and that, it's easy to get caught up in the, price didn't really matter on it. It was just reviewing the technology, right? Or seeing the biggest theaters that are out there. And one of the things that I really want to be able to focus through is, here's 3 key price points. Here's what you should be doing technology-wise at this price point. Here's what you should expect. Here's the level down in what you should be expecting in that price point. And then here's the, you know, you can call it beginner, you can call it budget, whatever you want to do. But here's kind of the best of what the technology equates out to at that price point. And, you know, there may be 5 brands that cover any one of those pieces. But the idea is to be able to know, if I'm investing this much money, whatever amount that is, because it's a lot, no matter what it is, it's a lot to all of us. And it's our hard-earned dollar. But what can I get at that price point? What should I be expecting at that price point, technology, feature set, programming wise? And I think that alone can help people, and something that is a little different than, say, reviewing a particular product, where it's not talking about how that, you know, is comparatively, you know, against either another product or against something else, but, you know, really being able to look and see, okay, this is what I should be expecting at this price point. So no, I love it. Joseph made a comment on there, that gas shock. It is super. So if you haven't seen it, that's a reference to Michael's system and how he's able to actually get behind where his screen actually lifts up and out. You know, so I agree. I love it as well.
Yeah, that wasn't my, I mean, I would love to take credit of that, but I have a very good friend that I told him, I said, we needed to redesign my front wall because I upgraded my speakers and they were huge. They were clipsless Scalas and I had 3 of them. So I did not have an acoustically transparent screen. It was 103 inches. And I said, what'd I do? He's like, well, you need to rebuild your wall. Like, I can't build jack. And so he helped me design it. And I said, 2 key things I need. I want to have easy access behind my screen in case I do upgrade speakers down the road. But I also want to have easy access behind my equipment. And so I don't have a rack in there. So he, again, helped me design easy access. So there's gas struts. Somebody corrected me. I called them gas shocks. They're like, that's on a car. That's not. That's that. That's, not
That's
a
an up
shock.
and down. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's apparently a strut. So anyway, regardless, but it's like just the simple things that you would have on your trunk of your car or the hood of the car sometimes. And so 150-inch diagonal screen, and I literally it actually has a hood latch that keeps it shut. And so I reach under there, seriously, reach under there and grab it to the side. It
So-
unlocks it, and then the
Michael,
struts-
how many times did the bass hit too hard before you had to put that latch in because you're watching a movie and it just goes?
that was there from the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Needed a way
That
to
would have
lock
been.
it.
Oh,
That's right. Any little movement and all of a
that's
sudden.
an epic fail right there. That like nobody would. That's a great story. So we're watching. We're watching Lucy in the opening scene.
No.
Brett, going back to what you were saying before,
Yeah.
one of my favorite pastimes now from a content perspective is really trying to predict the future, right? Of not only equipment, but also service, right? And I kind of look at things at from different points of view, right? So what's the future of content from a consumer point of view, and what's the future of hardware from like a high-end home theater point of view? And that kind of stuff is kind of got me jazzed up these days, because I feel like from a enthusiast to high-end level, we're at very pivotal stage, and technologies are going to vastly change over the next 5 to 10 years. And what you think is a standard design today, I think in just a few years time it's going to be completely different what people are looking for. So it's really exciting right now to be looking at all the different stuff that's out there.
No, I agree. And again, I think more than ever, things change so much faster now. That people need that education, right? We need to be able to talk about this stuff, and I think that becomes more and more important because I was like, again, receivers, especially speakers. These used to be things that changed every 5+ years, just like cars. When things didn't really change as much, and now we're getting into life cycles of 12 months, 24 months. And so understanding what's new, what's coming out, is it worth it? Can I get a good deal on the previous generation, or what's changing technology wise, and what does that mean to me, right? You want to buy an 8K TV, great, but why are you buying an 8K TV? What's the difference? And we used to have the same conversation when 4K was coming out, right? There's nothing in 4K. Unfortunately, there's still not as much out in 4K when it comes to TV, right? Obviously movies and all the rest have come out there. But when you're starting to look at 8K, is it just because somebody had to come up with something new, or is there a true benefit to people for that? And I think those are the conversations. OLED versus full array panels versus backlit versus micro LED, or it's like there's so many different terminologies that aren't always just marketing fluff. They're real, and they have different ways of being able to look at things, or different technology based on what you need to do. Like Tim was saying before, it depends on what it is that you need in a room, how much ambient light there is, and things like that. And I think that's the thing, is before you're looking at a brand, you need to understand the technologies and how they're going and how they're moving. And I think, just like you said, Giles, sometimes we have to predict a little bit of that. I think the other thing is letting manufacturers sometimes know what we want, right? And I think that's an important job, of the forums. And what you guys do is getting that information, getting that consumer feedback. Oftentimes, and I've been on that side from a manufacturer, we're building in our own worlds, right? What do I want? What's the next new thing? I'm a brilliant engineer, and this is what I know we want. I know better than. And the reality is, especially in this industry, it needs to be about what we want as enthusiasts, because we're the ones that are paying for it, right?
Mhm.
You know, and what are we willing to pay for, and what are we not? You know, and like I said, we'll hold the Kaleidoscape conversations for another day in technology. Obviously, I'm a fan, and I know a lot of you guys are, because I've been on there and we've talked about it. But you know, there's a price point for it, right?
Yeah.
I've never said anything otherwise to it, you know, and I love all the different options that are out there. I've played with all the options that are out there, so I'm not, you know, one to say, you know, buy this, not that, but I've never used that before. And so I think it's important to be able to kind of see a lot of those kind of pieces out there. So, you know, that's, I think, what we do, whether it's official journalism, whether it's, you know, more consumer focused YouTube, whether it's writing and websites, you know, and what I want to do is again, really kind of look at the technology standpoint from there. So, you know, we talked a ton about AV, obviously, tech enthusiasm. What's going on, man? Hey, I love it. Thank you guys. I'm watching a lot of the comments in here as we're kind of chatting. I don't know. I know I'll say thank you, so I'll put this up. Joe gave me a super sticker.
Ooh, you're first.
That is.
First sticker.
Yeah.
There you go.
Time to go buy that new car.
Is
Three
that-
more Hank, Starbucks.
I'm like, this is not what I do, so I don't know what that is, but thank you, Joe. I know it's good.
It's just his way of saying he supports you.
It's a sticker, but it's super.
There we go.
That's what
all
exactly
I need,
it
right?
is.
I'm easy.
It's a
Really stick
$2
out.
super sticker.
Digital.
So you know, as we were talking before about kind of some of the house stuff. So one of the things that I'm trying to do. So this is my work room, right? So I've actually gotten here. I'll show you guys another day with it. But on this side, I've got 3 screens plus my laptop, and so this is set up to kind of be able to show background. You know, your classic, you know, kind of YouTube background. On the other side, you can kind of see behind me. And that's midway through. So I actually just painted this room. I'm living on Red Bull and paint fumes at this moment, as I was just painting this room the last 2 nights. But that area will actually be relatively soundproofed or you know, sound isolated and acoustically prepared. And that's actually my recording studio. Not for music, I don't do anything like that, but for doing trainings. So a lot of the stuff that I need to do requires voiceovers as I'm, you know, building out trainings. And so that's my little studio to be able to do that. So again, dedicated spaces for it. And then downstairs, we actually have, call it a den, a second office that my wife can use. But that's like the pretty office. But it's really cool. So it's got a fireplace in there. I put 2 chairs in there. So Joe will be coming out. We'll actually do something so I can actually interview people that are live. You know, so if somebody has a chance to kind of come over here, or maybe we're looking at the theater or doing something else as it comes along, then I can actually put them in the chair and we can actually do a fun little interview. So I tried to build this house out so that I can, again, have a lot of places for content. But the other thing that was crazy to me, so it's a big house. There's about 100 lights in this house, bulb wise. So probably at least 60, 70 switches. There's about 35, 40 windows in this house. And there was not one shade covering, and there was 1 dimmer in the entire house.
Wow.
Jeez. You said he was a woodworker, so
That's right. Evidently.
Not an electrician, that's for sure.
Not an electrician.
Ugh.
I appreciate it, buddy, but I have to leave y'all. Thank you so much for the
Good to
invite.
see you,
No,
man.
Tim, we appreciate it. I know Tim
Thank
had
you,
said
Tim.
that he went late too, so that he could join us on this. So Tim, I appreciate it. We'll chat next week.
Later, Tim.
But thank you for joining us on here.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
Have a great one.
Bye, Tim.
So as I was saying to you guys, I you know, we're coming into this house, we're checking this stuff out. There are light switches everywhere because again, there's all these like 3-way to 5-way switches, right? Because the room's so big, there's 2 staircases, so you got it, you know, depending on where you're coming from. So I love the fact that it's like no matter where you are, you can find a light switch for that room, but you got to hit like 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons to figure out what switch it is. And it's not practical. And this house is only 10 years old. This isn't, you know, like a 50-year-old house that these things didn't exist, but to not even have a dimmer. You know, you walk into a room and, you know, it goes from either pitch black to like, you know, just floodlight bright, because most of these rooms have, you know, 4, 6, 8 floodlights sitting up at the top. And it's it's not really the right way to do it, and as much as, we love to talk about theater, one of the things I wanted to do as well, and I started looking, like when it comes to home theater, I know where all the good channels are. There's tons of them out there, including Techthusiasm. Again, this is a small representation. I got lots of other friends and lots of other forums and stuff that I check out that I'll have on the show. But when I started looking at things like shade control, automated shades, which is a huge topic. And if I'm investing in a new house or buying one, or even just looking at the house that I've lived in for years, what do I need to know about this? And this isn't a small, like where we can buy a Denon receiver for $500, right? This is an area where you're committed.
Yeah.
To put a couple shades in, you're still talking $10, $20, $30,000, and $5,000 to $1,000 per shade. It's not a small endeavor. And lighting control, same thing. I can go buy, and there's plenty of great products out there, right? So it's not throwing shade on all of them. This is where I say the best, better, good kind of setup. But there's products on Amazon like Govee and other products that are, solid products. They work, and they do. But they're meant to do different things, right? And they're meant to kind of be in a simpler or kind of a fun fashion. And then you move up, and in the last multiple years, Lutron, who is obviously a kind of a king in the lighting, side of things, they purchased and have really incorporated what they call catcher lighting. And, again, we'll talk about it later on in a lighting, specific kind of show. But the idea is that they make phenomenal lighting control, but you're talking about $200 for a bulb or $1,000 for a fixture. Now, often that's actually worth it. And when you look at the whole house and in the grand scheme of building a house or doing something else, it might not be that bad. It's 5% or 10%. And lighting is so important. We're realizing these things more and more, getting natural light in the home, and then obviously getting, light control. So you're not straining your eyes. So you don't all have to wear glasses like we do.
That's what happened.
That's right. So, but those are the things that when I was searching for forums that really talked about, let's say, lighting control or shade, automated shades, there's not a lot out there, and I think that's it becomes a more secretive area. And I'm also in a lot of, as we were building this house, or as we were updating this house and moving, I was joining some house building sites, and I'm watching all these people have questions about lighting control and and shades and flooring and, what do I put in this room or what's needed for this? I know DJ's in the process of building a place right now, and we've been talking that, and that's where I really saw and where I want for, FAQnatics to expand plus. It's not just home theater. I love talking about that, and we'll talk a lot about that because I have a background in it. But, I also want to be able to talk about the other things of a house. I've been in fortunate situations that I've been, like I said, my previous house, we effectively built from the ground up. That was 20 years ago. I've had some rental properties as markets have kind of come up and down. And so I've invested in those, and I've taught people that I've worked with, how to invest in those when they have questions. And so that's where a lot of times I sit there going, well, I don't really like to talk about my personal stuff a lot because, our personal finances are private, right? They're not anybody's business, frankly. At the same time, because everybody often is so secretive about those kinds of things, people don't get the education that they need, and we're not seeing that in schools as much anymore. And we're not, my wife's a teacher. I know what's going on in a lot of that. And I think it's an important piece. And that's where, I've always tried to instill with my daughter, who's a freshman now. So, in college. And so, just turned 18, but it's one of those things where they need to understand certain things, what things cost, how it works. How do you afford to be able to build a house? I'm going through and again, a subject for a different day, but like literally in the hours before this show and in between the two different live streams that I was doing today, I'm trying to get this house refinanced because I did it as a construction loan, which is only done for a certain amount of time. But that construction loan helped me as I was trying to get a few other things done. Right. But then when it comes up due, there's all these rules, and I'm trying to get P&L statements and all this and that. These are things that, where do you go when you have a question on that? You feel like when you scroll through, it's just commercials for stuff. You know, who's out there to actually show that doesn't have a hand in getting money out for, you know, for showing you how to do it. And I think those are things that all of us worldwide, you know, not just even in the US, because I know we've got some other people out there too, you know, but those are things that we all can probably use some help with. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Yeah. I hate to be the first one to go again, but yeah, I'm in the middle. No, I know. I thought we were just going across. You're next, Michael. I'm building a house now, and it's like, I literally, we have this, I don't know if it's everywhere in the country, but it's HERS energy report, and you have to abide by these things or you won't be able to get occupancy. And one of the things in there is everything in the house has to be LED. Everything.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. 100% LED. Right.
Oh.
So I see that and I'm like, all right, I was good with that anyways.
Yeah.
But then my house isn't that big. It's, you know, it's the main floor is like my wife and I are in is like 1,200 square feet. It's a small, but we have an in-law on the other side. And I'm looking at everything like Brett, you and I have talked, but it's like hue lighting. Do you do this? Do you do that? How big, how far does that get you? And I think what I've learned through home theater too is like we've all done this, like what do we want for lighting in our theater, and then do you want to expand that past into your home, right? That's where I come from it. And it's like, okay, I can do this, I could spend it in my theater, but to do the whole house, but now I'm building a whole house, so do I have to do something. So instead of just doing it the old-fashioned way and then redoing it later into a new update, what's the cost benefit of everything, right? And then I don't know if hue will get you there. I know from what I understand, and maybe this is something other people can answer, it's like Lutron is because if you have a big enough house, hue wouldn't be able to do it. It's just too much load on your network. Whereas hue, if I have a smaller house like mine, it doesn't require as much network bandwidth to run it. So these are the things that I'm looking at right now. And then obviously the control systems to do it. But to your point, it's like this channel, what you're doing is like people, you're going to be getting flooded, Brett. You're done. You're done, buddy. And I'm just talking me.
Hi, Brett.
I'm just talking me. I'm like, you thought I talked to you a lot before.
That's what your channel is about.
Right.
Well, and it is, and this is what I love to do, right? And everybody knows, like everybody else on here, I love to chat about this stuff, and I'm always open about it. And DJ knows, I've always told him, tell me when you're ready to, to look at lighting. And like he said, you could put in a cheap can right now, which it's still not cheap, and you still got to pay an electrician. And now you're going to run all these light switches, whereas really the way that things are going now is the controller is in the bulb. Right. In any of these solutions, that's the hue solution. That's the Ketra solution. That's the, as you look at things like Prolux on from American Lighting, the brains are in the bulb, not in the switch. And the one benefit of that is that you can literally run, because with LEDs, it doesn't take that much power. You can run almost an entire house on one 20 amp switch.
Right.
So, whereas right now, we all know we've got different breakers for different rooms and outlets versus switches and that's changing. And if you don't know that it's changing, which most people don't, you're going to build your house the same way. And the reality is the builder just wants to get it done, right? The electrician just wants to get it done. And they're not thinking about where does that resale value go in 5, 10, 20 years when you want to sell the place. Because I guarantee if you build a house like DJ right now, and you don't put any of that stuff in there, and 10 years from now, you decide to go sell it, and there's other houses that are newer, 10 years newer, 8 years newer, a lot of them are going to have that in there. Now your home is going to be at a disadvantage. And again, your home is, for pretty much everybody, one of your biggest investments. And so, I think it's that much more important. Home theater is great, and it's important to do it right. And, build the right room and do acoustics and all those things. If you're doing that, it's super important from that area. But when you start looking at lighting control, or again, this house blew me away because for the size of it, and it's on a half acre, right? So again, if you're in the Midwest, that's small. But my previous house had a 5,000 square foot lot. So, a half acre is a lot bigger. They have no lighting in the backyard or the front yard. You walk outside at night, it is pitch black. and there's a pool in the backyard and all this and that, and it's like, and you cannot see anything. And I don't understand it. I think, you know, there were some other things that went along with it, and maybe the money ran out from all the wood, you know, and didn't have the money for the lights on the outside. But that's important. You know, the first thing you see when you drive up to the house is going to be that lighting, right? And the lighting and the looks and security and safety for your family. You know, and so those are things, not just, you know, does it look pretty and is it nice, but from a security standpoint, you know, those things are important. And then being able to automate those things. So, you know, my porch light goes on automatically at dusk, right? I don't have to think about it. There's nobody else was home and my wife's coming home at 8:30 and it's pitch black and she trips over the stairs because nobody turned on a porch light. Those lights automatically go on, you know, and that's the way to be able to look at those things. I love it. Jamie's on here. So Jamie is Matthew's wife, and we love Jamie as well. Jamie is great. As well.
She's a convert.
That's right. And so
she's the reason that we let Matthew on the show.
That's right. Matthew was actually the fill-in because Jamie was not available.
Jamie wasn't available. You know, she couldn't make it. Yeah. You know, about Brett. To what you were saying, something that just a point you made, and also DJ, you know, when you're looking at lighting in general, so you have to look at it just as an overall experience, the same way that home theater is an experience. You know, the lighting, that's an experience in your home. It's part of how you live. So it's not just, you know, like, okay, where do the lighting fixtures go? It's okay, are there gaps, you know, or, you know, like if I go somewhere, if I go to a house and I'm looking to do a lighting plan, I'm going there at sunset because I want to see what does the house look like at sunset. There might be gaps that are not evident in the middle of the day. There's the same with sunrise. So, you know, you really have to intelligently analyze what the light looks like when everything is off, and be able to fill those gaps. And to touch on the lighting technology and how it's moving. So, you know, there are fixtures that a whole house can be run on a 20 amp circuit, but now you can run a whole house on 2 PoE switches. There are several brands out there. Color Beam USA, I know is one, but you can literally, you run Cat 5e or Cat 6 cable, and it will power every fixture in your home. It's really unbelievable, and they loop into automation, control for, etc. So yeah, the lighting technology is really going far. But I just want to emphasize the importance of having real lighting design. You know, just being able to, it helps you get the most out of what you're spending, because it's going to cost a lot to do, you know, if you're doing every light in your house, but you definitely want it designed right so you get the best coverage, but also the best experience. You know, what is the hue of the light when the sun is setting? You know, what is the hue of the light, you know, if you're working late, you know, and it's midnight outside. So different things like that also need to go into the lighting plan as well.
Yep.
Well, now I know who to talk to when I rip out this Insteon system.
Insteon. Oh, I used to use them, man. Well, so they were good for what they were, but man.
This whole place is Insteon. Every light switch in this whole house is Insteon. So I got
Wow. Yeah. At some point, when I got started, it was X10. So which is kind of the big brother of Insteon as it kind of turned in, right? So when I started, I remember being on X10, and you know, it was funny. So we started building that in. So again, this, you know, the better part of 20 years or 18 years ago, I guess, because so my daughter just turned 18. So, you know, I've always, you know, nowadays I'll have like 3 lighting control systems in my house at any given time because I'm testing things and doing this and that. You know, my wife loves it. You know, how does this switch work? Why is this different than everything else? Right. So, but when we first put it in, of course, she's sitting there going like, Brett, come on, we could just walk over to the switch. Like, this isn't difficult. Right. And that's, I think, again, the mentality. And I get it. But I remember when my daughter was born and I was doing some late nights and run around and travel and this and that. And my wife told me a story, and this was kind of sold her on it. And since then, she loves lighting control. She's waiting for it in here. And upset that it takes so long. But so my daughter was a newborn. And, you know, she's sitting down for kind of like the first time in the evening. She just got my daughter to sleep. And, you know, she's realizing it's like 9 o'clock at night. The porch light's not on. And so this was before it was all automated, because, again, we're going back a ways. But on my URC remote, there was a section for lighting that actually controlled, and it had a tie-in that would tie into my X10 at the time. And so she was able to hit a button and turn on my porch light. And she goes, I love that because I was able to actually turn on the porch light for you, but I didn't have to get up, walk around the house and, and risk waking up the baby. And then the second piece of it was, she wanted to get some sleep. She had the baby, so she was holding it. So she was holding the baby and sitting in a recliner chair. And so she was able to turn off the lights in the family room, which obviously, her complaint before is you could just walk over to the switch. She did not want to get up. So she was able to hit that on the remote and it turned off the light and she loved it. And she was able to get some rest. I think those are the stories that always resonated with me, which is where is the power in this technology? It's, it's cool. It's fun to show your friends. It's this and that. But really there is, when you're living with it on a daily basis, it's not even a question at this point. Yeah. This technology is there. You should have it in there. Nowadays, my wife's all about voice control, and she's upset here because like I said, we don't even have dimmers. Right. So, it's a big deal. But it's a big project. It's not like I can just go out and in a couple hours now we've got lighting, right? I've got like 60, 70 switches that I have to change or bulbs that I have to change. And we'll do a mixture here of 3 different setups. So like I said, I want to incorporate best, better, good. So we'll have Ketra in some of the key rooms to be able to show like the best of what you can do. And then I have got Prolux, which I've been testing and I used in this room, which is absolutely phenomenal as well. And I got a chance to introduce a few of you guys when we were at CEDIA. And so they make some great product at a lower price point, right? But still does 85, 90% of the same features. And so when you look at it, a lot of times people are like, well, $1,000 a fixture, that's a lot of money. And it is, or $200 a bulb, that's a lot of money. But what if you put that in key rooms of your house? Mm-hmm. Well, 2 things are going to happen. 1, you're going to love it. And, so 2, you're going to sit there and go, well, why don't I have this in the rest of my house? And so, but it's not always easy to put that system everywhere. So, instead you could use something like Prolux. Now, Lutron app is great. So if you're just trying to use Lutron on its own, obviously they don't mix and match with other brands. Mm-hmm. But then when you start throwing that up, and it was funny because Jamie said it, and this is how I look at it, you run like Control 4 or a smart control system. And now it actually controls those Prolux lights the same exact way that it controls the Lutron lights. And for the user, it's a seamless experience. So no matter which room you go into, you've got 13 million choices and the same dimming controls and the same everything else. But now you just did it at a price point that's far more effective. So like I said, being able to mix and match and things like that, are hugely important there. So
we've put the caseta, or cassetta, all over our house, which I guess is more, it's like a step down from what you're talking about. But it's been great. It does exactly what we needed to do. You have app control over all the lights. You can set timers on the lights. You can like have on and offs with dusk and dawn, all of those kinds of things. Plus, I really love the fact that I can put light switches wherever I want with the little remote control.
Oh, the little Picos?
Pico.
Yep. Yeah, the
Picos are the greatest thing in the world, man.
I do wish it was more integrated, so I could integrate it into with like my Kaleidoscape. So the lights would go down when a movie is starting in my home theater room, which I don't think.
No. Radio Route 3.
Yeah. So right now I brought that up as well. And you're absolutely right. So I run, so in my other house, so the San Mateo house, I use Raw2 Select, which is effectively, you've got Cassetta, then you've got Raw2 Select, then you've got Raw 3, which is more the professional side. Raw2 Select kind of straddles the two, more Cassetta, it looks more like a Cassetta, but it can do a few more switches. So like up to 100 or 200 now. And then you get into the big boys, and that's like Homeworks and this and that you often need to be able to do shade control in addition to things like Ketra. And so it just depends, again, not on all 3-4 platforms that Lutron does are all rock solid. I mean, truly rock solid. What you need is dependent on what you're trying to do, and so again, Cassetta is an amazing system, and again, gets you 80% of the same way. You don't get color control and you don't get some of those other pieces to it, but from an ability to be able to control my lights, walk into a room, have motion sensors, all those different things, it is absolutely tremendous, and then I run, as DJ was saying, in my previous house, I ran Raw2 Select and I run Philips Hue. So I actually use Hue in my front yard and my backyard, so that I can actually change the colors depending on the time of year.
Right.
So when we have Halloween, they go purple and orange. And then as we get into right now, they're like a yellow and orange for Thanksgiving, and then it'll go into holiday colors, and it'll, so is it red and green for Christmas, or white and red and green, or whatever you want to do. I think it's super cool because it's a great way to be able to dress up the house, and you can just create these scenes, and it's super easy for people to be able to use. So like I said, I've been a Hue fan for years, especially when I was at Harmony. We had a huge integration with Hue in there. So I think it's mixing and matching, as long as you just don't want to make it so complicated that only one person in the house knows how to use it. It takes 15 minutes to do it.
That's a big problem. We have LifeX bulbs, which are like you. And I'm the only person in the house that, well, my kids are out of the house now, but my wife could care less about trying to figure out how to change them. And they work about 95% of the time, but occasionally you'll turn them on and they're all white. You can see behind me here throughout the game room down through our downstairs here. We have various color lighting schemes, and sometimes they just like to reset to white. It's easy for me to fix because I have the app, but
sure.
I wish there was an easier
all this
way
stuff only breaks when my wife's, when I'm traveling and my wife wants to do something. It's been that way for years, right? So, so Rick made a comment on there. Love the channel. Appreciate that, Rick. So again, brand new. I've got a lot of great people on here, but we're talking about so FAQnatics, FAQnatics, as you're looking at the channel in there. So appreciate it if any of you guys subscribe as you're going through there. We're gonna have some great content, and again, covering a lot of different aspects and really looking at researching it, not just my own opinion on it, but really digging in, as well as sharing a lot of the stuff that I've had in there. But I saw this. I saw a lot of the comments going in. You guys have been great answering questions in the comments. What are your thoughts on 2 subs versus 1? Rick, I'm going to give you. So again, we all have it. I saw all the same answers in there. The answer is always 2 subs.
It's 4 subs is the answer.
Well,
it's not 2.
But that's what I was going to say. So I actually I taught a class on this, Rick, last month. So I do a show generally every month with Anthony Gramani, who again, a lot of people have known for doing a ton of great rooms and system designs. He actually started at Dolby was his first job. He was there. He built out the THX program. One of the guys, obviously, that built it out over at THX. And so looking at it scientifically, the issue becomes, Rick, when you have 1 sub, trying to find the proper placement so that you're not super hot in, let's say, your captain's seat, but then the other rooms or the other seats in the room, don't have nearly as much bass, or maybe yours is right, but it's incredibly hot at another one. And so when you look at the waveforms, it becomes simple math, right? And so a lot of people look at it as, well, I'll just get a bigger sub, but a bigger sub really doesn't solve those room mode issues. And so as you add 2 subs in a room, you're able to actually control a little bit. And you guys, I know I see it sometimes, and sometimes it's for pictures and the rest. 2 subs do not go in the front. You really have to have them opposing. And we saw a lot of that with waveforming, with Trinov and their booth at Cedia and the rest. Although we don't all get, 24 subs in a room, but the idea is that it works even smaller. But really, the proper answer is, even if you went a little bit smaller, but went with 2 subs or went with 4 subs, not 3, but looking at 4 and either putting them equidistant in the room or corner loading them, which loses a little bit of the clarity, but not much that you're going to notice, and increases the power and the headroom of the bass, because you're getting boundary effects because you're in a corner and on 3 sides. So the answer, Rick, is always go with more subs. If you're adding a sub, obviously that kind of changes it and what sizes and things like that, because you want them to match, or at least match as much as possible. Not necessarily brand wise, but we're talking power and size wise. But if you're just building something in, put 2 subs in, put 4 subs in, even if you have to go smaller, guarantee you're going to end up getting better, more even bass sound coverage throughout the room. And then if you want that more impactful hit that we all want, and Todd's always looking for on Bass Hunters, the reality is now you can add infrasonics into that. And infrasonics, once you get past about 30 hertz, you're past the room notes. So you're past bouncing off the walls because the waves are so long, they're probably longer than your room. And at that point now, that sub really can be placed anywhere. So now if you get that bigger, 15, 18, 21 or larger sub, that can really be placed just up front. And you're going to be able to get that deep chest impact that you want, but without needing 3-4 big, huge subs. So the answer is typically that works. And that's not just my opinion. That's coming from Anthony Gramati. That's coming from a ton of expertise in it.
Yeah, and also on Room EQ there's a feature on there where you can predict response in your room based on sub placement. So you can do multi-sub and you can play around, with you input your room size, and then you can move the subs around and get a good idea of what you're going to be hearing in your captain's chair. So that's one easy way to start to begin to figure out where you're going to place subs. But, Brett, I think one thing that people often want to know is kind of something you were just touching on. Do I spend all my money on a bigger sub, or do I buy, 2 cheaper subs?
Sure.
And one response is, get the smaller subs. I always kind of also say, if that's the case, and you want to really dig deep, if you want that bigger sub that's going to dig deeper into the lower into the lower 20s, maybe into the teens, just wait, save your money.
That's my advice.
I think that one of the worst things you can do when it comes to subwoofers is buy underpowered subs, because you're going to end up disappointed. At some point, you're going to sit back. Some movie's going to slam your underpowered subs, and it's going to sound bad, and you're never going to be able to unhear it. And you're going to want the next level up. So, in my opinion, you're better off buying some used, because they're always out there. Good deals are out there. Or save your money. What's another 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months? Not a whole lot. I mean, I'm all about seizing the moment, but I would say when it comes to subwoofers, I would suggest save up your coin and do it right.
I agree with you,
because
that's one of those things in a theater that can make or break it. To me, the subwoofers bring the energy, it brings the impact, it brings the excitement, it brings a smile to our face. There's nothing like watching a movie. You got this big screen and you see this big explosion, you hear it, but you don't feel it, I want to make sure that I'm feeling it. And so I've always kind of been an advocate of buy the best subwoofer you can. Now, it doesn't mean you bought the most expensive subwoofer. Just buy a good quality subwoofer that fits your budget, maybe even stretches your budget a little bit. And then down the road, save up a little more and get another one just like it. If you need some more bass, or if you're trying to get better seat to seat response like you're talking about. I'm not a big fan of, I'm thinking go out in your garage, man, sell some crap that you haven't used in 20 years. And
that's what Brett's doing.
Subwoofer, seriously. Flip some stuff on Craigslist or eBay or whatever, man. Do something to get some extra money in it and just get a quality subwoofer. I just reviewed the Sue subwoofer, and that's huge value. Crazy huge value. The used market is phenomenal, man. There's all the time. I've scored, and it's funny because over the years, I've scored so many of these great deals that my community kind of created a coin. Actually, it goes back to the Clips forum days, and they coined the phrase Youthman deal. I didn't even come up with that. But they're like, dude, I got me a Youthman deal. I'm like, what's a Youthman deal? They're like, well, you've always, shared, I bought this for this or this for this. And I spent so much, so little compared to what it's worth. But the reality is the deals are out there, man, especially in the used market. And so if you can't afford to go new, man, absolutely go used. But there's so many great ways that you can get some good quality. There's DIY options that can save you a ton. Watching review channels to see what can I get the most bang for my buck kind of thing. And But yeah, I'm all for some good subs. And one thing I have found over the years, I've been doing this kind of a long time, and started out with a 10-inch Velodyne. Loved that subwoofer.
Oh,
It had limitations. Then I went to a 15-inch Velodyne. That was a whole new world for me.
Yeah.
I liked this so much, I bought a better one. I like that so much, I bought 2 of the same. Upgraded again to 2 15s, and then I upgraded to 4 15s, and then I went to 4 18s, and I've never gone the other way.
Sure.
You know?
right.
So it's like I haven't gotten into the 21s or 30s or 50s or the 80s. Not sure I'll ever go that direction, but just get a good quality subwoofer, man. It will change your home theater experience. And then when you start getting into those infrasonics, 18 hertz, 17 hertz, 5 hertz, that's a whole new experience, man.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to get away with budget speakers as opposed to budget subs.
Yeah.
Because you can place speakers to get the most out of them.
Well,
Yeah,
by
so you can't overcome a budget.
running,
by
Some
handing
determine
over a
their
lot
own
of those frequencies to the subwoofer, you can, like you said, you can get away, because really the lower frequencies is where some of those, let's say you got some bookshelf speakers and you start cranking, music and send a lot of bass to them, they start sounding terrible. But as soon as you can add a crossover, man, they kind of open up and they really shine because they're not having to perform out of their capability. They can handle the mid-range, they can handle the higher frequencies and some bass. Let the subwoofer handle that. So by getting that higher quality subwoofer, it can actually enhance your lesser expensive speakers too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's funny, DJ was making a comment on there as you're talking about selling stuff out in your garage. So DJ knows, because we're always talking about cars when we're on his show. So again, you guys, looking at my commitment to this and needing to free up some cash and build out my business and things like that. So I actually just sold off my 2016 911 GTS.
Yeah, I saw that listed, man.
Yeah,
I was tempted to buy it from you.
I sold it about a week and a half ago.
Awesome.
Oh, I love the car. Now, realistically, I found an awesome deal as we talk about good deals and things like that. I actually found a raging deal on a 2014, so 2 years older, but 911 turbo that had again a matte black PPF put onto it, and I mean just everything I wanted in a car. And obviously couldn't do both. But as we were moving into the house and doing this and that, I knew it was going to hold its value for a while. And it was an auction, so I couldn't just trade in my car like we would normally do. And so I had both of them sitting there, and then technically I did the same thing because I had a bet before that, and that's sitting there too. So I'll post some pictures. And again, another topic that we're going to talk about on these shows, which is cars, track days. I do a lot of track days and things like that. So as people want to know, what do I look at in these performance cars and what can I do and things like that, we're going to talk a little bit about that. I've got a great guy who runs a business, again, local in Sacramento, that I'll have on, Hunter. And so he actually runs a detailing service and has done a lot of stuff in there and does a great job on what he's doing. So I'm going to have him come in and we're going to talk about car stuff. And, like I said, it's fun. DJ obviously has a lot of stuff in there, so I'll probably have him on there too. But yeah, like I said, I did similarly. I'm like, hey, I want to build a home theater. I want to do it right. Obviously, I'm going a little over the top because I want to use it not just for my own, passion and enjoyment, but like I said, I want to build these A/B comparisons and this and that, and that means I got to buy a better Storm processor so I can do a network digital out and an analog audio out at the same time. And I realize I don't have to, you guys, but it makes it easier for what I want to. Right? And so, so it meant that I realistically, I sold off that car that I love too, and so, and the vet's going next. So if anybody needs a 2017 Corvette C7 Grand Sport, you let me know.
Yeah, I do, but no, but Brett, you're like what you're talking about. Like when I have people on my show, I like to talk about anything and everything. That's how you and I have gotten into the cars, right? And we talked about, and you like live on air looked in like, why would anybody have a sports car and not go to the track? And I'm like, me? I love, and but like he was literally like making fun of that type of person, and I'm like, that's me. I love the beauty of a car. That's what I do for a living. I paint them, I keep them looking beautiful, right? I detail them, I do all this. I'm like, I just like the way it looks. I like to go to car shows. You like to go make it look like covered in rubber. But yeah, but I love that part. Like I have Michael on, and I found out he went skydiving, right? I have Todd on. He's an Air Force brat. I call him Iron Eagle. I have Giles on, and Brett was there, so I haven't really got to know Giles that well yet.
Sorry.
It could have been more fun if it had just been me.
I know.
It was but we had a great time, and it's like, Matt, I'll have you on, and same thing. I can't wait to talk integration and stuff, and all of that fun stuff. But then also get to know you and stuff, and that's what I think, Brett, you're going to be doing here as well. And it's all of that fun stuff, but also helping people with anything and everything. My channel is dedicated to home theater, but I like to get to know the people. So that's how we find out all that. But you're going to be getting to know people and be talking about anything and everything, which I think is awesome.
The idea is, I want to get comments from people, and, you tell me what you guys, want to talk about, right? Or what questions are out there. Obviously, there's certain things that, are kind of inherent for everybody. I need to understand this, and, how do I look at finances, or how do I look at a home theater, and how many subs do I need? What location should Smurf 2 be run to? I had that on there. I won't forget it, John. But there's other things that, tell me what you want. I love reaching out to people and finding kind of the expert answers and getting those things, because I get, to learn about it, and I get to share that education with somebody else. And it takes time, too many times, realistically, we're kind of in a society now where you read or skim through one article, or I saw a headline and now I'm an expert on that topic. And that's not really the case, right? So I really want to be able to spend the time to make sure that everybody, truly understands those things. And if you have a question about, what are the types of different loans? Why do I want a 30-year or a 15-year? Why don't I want an ARM? What's a P&L loan, or what are the risks? I'm not going to tell you what the right rate for you to do it is. I have an opinion, and when you do it, and should you buy a home, and all those kinds of things. But really, it's about making sure that you know the options, because how many people do we hear stories about, and know family-wise and this and that have got caught up in this kind of stuff, right? And they invest in something, they maybe get a little over their head. Investment portfolios are the same way. Like I said, I got licensed as a broker when I was 21. And so I've been fortunate to play around in that kind of stuff. And then I kind of moved on to the, property side of it instead. But I'm watching a wild market swings right now. And there's not a lot of data behind it, and people just like, Bitcoin and the rest, we won't go too deep into some of those, but like understanding what it is that you're buying. The reality is the guys that are all into it make the money on the first side. And it's the guys that come in at the end that are paying the exorbitant prices that end up losing their shirts as those prices come back down. There's winners and losers and everything. And, it's a transaction, but, those are the kinds of things where, I've been in those things too, when I was younger and didn't know, and nobody explained those things to me. And that's where I want to be able to kind of expand and get that knowledge out there, so that you can do whatever you want. It's your hard-earned money, whether we're talking subs or finance or cars or whatever else, or vacations, but at least understanding how things work is something that, I want to be able to share, on a variety of subjects, like you said, DJ. So, real quick, so I don't forget in there, as John was saying it, Smurf tubes, you guys. So as we're running tubes in there for future proofing, as we were talking about, there's a variety of places. Obviously, as you get more into speakers, it's speaker level, speaker wire. At some point might be using, if it has a built-in amplifier, you might want a network cable running to that location. But usually that's relatively easy. That's 1 or 2 cables. You're never going to outgrow it. You never need to go a bigger speaker. Speaker cable diameter or gauge is usually based on distance, more so than the size of the driver. So as long as you're running a 12-14 gauge, depending on the distance, you're going to be set. But if you're talking about the head end to where your TV is, you want a Smurf tube because again, it went from composite to S-video to component to HDMI to HDMI 2.0 to 2.1 to, who knows what it's going to be, probably fiber. As you're into the future, you want to make sure that you've got that run. Now, multiple runs of
risers too.
Yep. And so, if you're going to run a projector, if you've got a room, you're going to want Smurf tube to that. Anywhere where you've got a connector that may change or that we've seen change over the last 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to want a Smurf tube for that. And that just makes it so that you can run stuff. And if you're not going to run a Smurf tube for some reason, make sure you're running the best of whatever you can. So right now, as you get into Cat 7 cable, Cat 5e will actually take care of most people, for what the data that's running on it for in most homes. But make sure that you're running, at minimum 6, but 7 as you get better in there, because cable is cheap. And especially at the time when your walls are open, cable is super cheap. It's much less cheap when you have to pull out drywall, and text and texture and everything else to it after and repaint. So that's the beauty of a Smurf tube, is basically it kind of arcs and runs so that you could be in your attic or wherever else, and you literally just feed it through. And as you're feeding it through, it ends up at the other side. You don't have to worry about joints and corners and all those kinds of things. And so that's really what you're looking for. But if you're running it now in that Smurf tube, because some people run cable and then outside, the idea is to leave the Smurf tube empty for future stuff. But if you are running cable in the Smurf tube now, it should have fiber, even if it's dark and you're not using it. We call it dark, just means it's not connected. But run fiber. Fiber is relatively cheap and can be terminated in the future. Run multiple lengths of Cat, because most people are using Ballons. And while a lot of Ballons are single Cat 5, Cat 6 cables now, more bandwidth can be rectified by using multiple cables. So we used to see that before, and again in the future, again probably, where you could connect 2 different Cat cables into Ballon on each side, and now you're able to get more bandwidth through it. So just some thoughts as we're trying to looking at the house and looking at those opportunities to make sure that you're wiring for the future.
Yeah, and just to add about the Smurf tube, because from experience, when we renovated our basement, my home theater is down in the basement, I ran a single Smurf tube to the back of the room, and that is holding speaker wire, XLR cables, HDMI cables, and things like that. You really want to run maybe 2 or 3 Smurf tubes, even if they're left open, because I have now an XLR cable pulled halfway through and it got stuck.
I was wondering about that. I was wondering how many you add before it gets tangled.
And it's no fun when you're pulling something and all of a sudden
it stops.
It's not moving anymore. And I wish, because we did have, all the walls open down here, the ceiling in my home theater room was basically gone. We easily could have run some empty tubes.
Sure.
And it never even dawned on me. I probably should have called someone up like Matt and said, come on over. I need you to look at this, and get the expert eyes on it. Someone who's, is in the field doing integration, and say, you need to, like you're saying, pull fiber, pull some Cat, things I didn't think about. But anyway, I would say definitely have 2 Smurf tubes, if not more.
What size would you even recommend? Is there a certain diameter?
So there's some rules around that, and I bring that up. Go ahead.
2 inches is my favorite. I was saying, 2 inches is my favorite. It's not always necessary, but 2 inches it just make sure that you get everything. Because sometimes, I've done 4 HDMI cables and 3 Cat 6 or 4 Cat 6 in a single run sometimes, and you still want to have a little bit extra. So you run the pull strings, if the walls are open, you just run the pull strings, you do the vacuum trick, attach a pull string to the vacuum, etc., and then do your other cable. So it's better to just leave those pull strings in there, install the Smurf tube, so that when the time comes, your strings are there, you just yank. Also, wire lube. So some people don't know this exists, but wire lube, put it on everything before you put it into the Smurf tube.
And that's what I was going to say.
Was that my mistake?
You need some carbon dust in there. It's just like Matthew said. It's a real thing. So it's designed to help you squeeze those cables through as you get a little tighter in there.
Helps.
So
I must feel like I should cut everything, pull it out, and start all over.
That's right. Hey,
Get the wire lube in there. I can pull on my
I'm helping Joe
Frustrating.
with the theater coming up pretty soon here in the next couple of weeks. But Michael, the other side of that question, and just to add on what Matthew was saying. So I agree, 2 inches. Now, in most locations, and this can be local as well as as federal. So there's codes as to how much of that, let's call it a 2x4, you can cut out, right? And oftentimes the code is 50%, or less than 50%. So one, you should always put a strike plate, because you never want to put a cable, you never want to run a nail or a screw through it. So you put a strike plate, super cheap plates, that wherever you cut through the hole, you basically put it on there, especially if you're running loose cable. But oftentimes you can't even get past 2. And people will, they'll try to run stuff, but be careful, because you might have run, 3-inch. They make bigger tubes because you don't know what size studs or what size walls. You may have a 6-inch stud, in certain rooms, or depending on how you're building. But you want to make sure that you're following the local guidance, because there's nothing worse than you've run all that tubing and everything else, and then you're trying to get your approval, and they won't give you approval because you bypassed, let's say 50% of the stud. And then the same thing comes true to what Todd was saying. Absolutely, run multiple Smurf tubes in there. Again, you just want to make sure, especially with the load-bearing wall, what the rules are and how close together those holes that you're cutting, because you're cutting a 2-inch hole in your 2x4. Right. You can imagine that, one isn't going to do too much damage, but if you cut a 3-inch diameter hole in a 2x4, which isn't really 4 inches anymore, it's like 3.5, 3 3/4. You've made it to now you can kind of, karate chop your way through that, through that stud.
Yeah.
See, you guys, I've picked up a few things in my years.
Just a
Charles and Charles, I've known Charles for years. Charles is, again, another guy from the Harmony days. And I know Matthew knows him as well, because I see everybody chatting in the forums. It's always fun to me to see other people that I didn't know each other, that are alive in the forums. So, but Charles, always good to hear from you. But he was saying, a forum for used equipment that's vetted by industry experts. So the expert part's a little harder because somebody has to take a look at it, right? But as Michael was saying, and if it's his stuff, but there are a few good sites out there that I feel like most people, they're just upgrading because, like Michael said, I was at a 15 and then I went to an 18, or I did this and that. And, the equipment still works well. We're passionate people, so we take care of our equipment, but it's just time to upgrade, right? Mm-hmm. And so, Michael, I'm going to let you give, and I don't know who else has one, but Michael, are you the only one with a used site? And what's the forum that people can go to for those Youthman deals?
So it's not so much that, it was more, I have like a classifieds crew, or it's called Youthman Classifieds on Facebook, but that was just, I just didn't want to clog up like my Youthman crew.
Yeah, with people talking about that.
Yeah, it's like, hey, go, if you want to share over there.
And you'll see that Home Theater Enthusiast has one. Mm-hmm. Giles, do you have something in there for used equipment yet? I know you've got some, like, for newer stuff, and then Todd, same thing for you. But do you guys have anything for used equipment on your forum?
Not so much. Yeah, no, not so much.
Yeah, Todd, anything?
We do, but it's not tremendously active.
Sure.
Yeah,
maybe one or two things pop up. It's usually I find
Facebook,
local deals seems to be the way.
Well, it's tough when you start talking subs, because those things are monster, right? The shipping costs outweigh what you're gonna sell it for it in a lot of those situations. So you really do get into a spot where
look for local deals.
Kind of got to be local.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of that, having somebody actually be able to look at the product so that because it's still a big investment, right? Even if you're buying that sub used, that JL sub's going to cost you a coin, at the end of the day. So
I'm just imagining all this used equipment showing up at my house to get vetted. It sounds like a total nightmare.
That's the hard part, right? Somebody's got to look for that. What percentage do you take to be able to get that and then ship it back out?
There's a big enough percentage.
Todd's like, I got to review Bill Smith's DIY sub back here. And,
take a year for it to happen, but it will happen.
That's right. For only an 80% commission, I can.
It's got a beautiful balsa wood finish.
That's right. Oh, I love it. Oh, look at that. Dude, I got all these people. I love it, you guys. So Tom Sisper, again, known for years. If you're in the Bay Area, this is the man to see. So I grew up with him at Good Guys. He actually taught me a ton of stuff. He was excellent. This is back in the day of Mitsubishi Diamond rear projection TVs, you guys.
That's what I started with for my theater.
That's right. And so Tom knows his stuff, and he's gone through the years. He's always been in this industry. He was at Magnolia for a long time, and then Magnolia's kind of shifted how they work things with Best Buy. And so now he is at, I believe it's audio design. So if you're in the San Jose area, I'm gonna give you your plugs, Tom, because I love you. Definitely go see him. But he's great. He knows what he's talking about. They have an amazing showroom, and showroom experience is a big thing too, you guys, when you're talking about I want to actually see this stuff, right? Don't just tell me it's time to buy something. And this is the best thing ever. Do you have a demo of it? Well, no. Have you ever actually heard it yourself? That's what I love with like what Matthew does. They've really taken over their home with building out these great showrooms that, one, they can enjoy themselves, but two, they're able to actually demo their, for their clients and the rest. And I see Matthew all the time in his post updates. Hey, we're updating this to Focal, we're doing this and that, we're rebuilding this room. And I think it's important because I want somebody that, one, I can trust in general. But two, I want to know that they've actually played with the stuff, right? That, that they're not attempting their first install on my house or selling me the best speaker that they've never actually heard or used before, right? Matthew, why don't you chat about that for a quick second? How do you find as you've, because you're, like Giles, like the rest, I mean, you have a career in IT that you've been in, you're, super well educated and this stuff. This was really kind of a passion play for you as you've built it up, but you've done it the right way in my mind, in building up these rooms and really making sure that you understand it. And that's helped you grow really quickly. But how do you see that? How has building demo rooms and things like that and having something to show clients really kind of help the honesty, the respect, the knowledge side of that for, between you and your clients?
Oh, so it's been absolutely beneficial. Being able to have tangible products here for clients to play with. A lot of my clients are enthusiasts. So they come there, hand them the iPad. I say, play with the trend knob. They're like, what, really? Having something that and giving them full reign, understanding, don't blow my subs, but just letting them play with it, let them hear. A lot of audio files come, so it's like, all right, Wisdom Audio versus Focal, Beryllium versus the PMDs. There's not a whole lot of places where you can compare those. You can compare those here. So investing in building out spaces, because I mean, personally, just need one room. The other rooms are showrooms for customers, for the business. So being able to build those out and allowing people to come and look, listen. We just finished installing a 4-way masking screen, so that the whole idea being, so people want to know what screen size should I use. Well, let's move a chair and let's change screen sizes and aspect ratios until you find what's comfortable. So just making these little changes to making it inviting. It's been really, really good for us, and it's been astronomical because it helps people actually figure out what they want. Same with the lighting, as we were talking earlier. We have Lutron, control for light, all these kind of things, letting people play around with things and figure out what they like if they're enthusiasts. If they're not enthusiasts, then just saying, here's what I recommend, but here are the alternatives. Let's play with them. Demo sessions usually last for a few hours because we run through so many different potentialities when we run through them. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing to have.
No, I agree. I think good demo rooms that work well, that show clients and multiple brands of speakers, are key to really providing an experience, especially when we start talking about, no matter what the budget is, frankly. But when you start talking about higher end products, I want to be able to hear it. What is the difference? And people often associate the product, but I'm a big believer. The room and the acoustics play as much, if not a bigger role, in that overall sound, because, I've said it for years and I was at Bowers and Wilkins, right? So, I love a good set of, 800 D3s and the new D4s. But you put those in a room that isn't calibrated or doesn't have acoustic treatments in the room, and it's just echoing, you can't tell the difference between that and a pair of 600s or 700s. That's the reality of it. And I think that's something that people get caught up in is I want the brand, I want the bigger screen, I want the this and that, I want the bigger speakers. And they don't realize, or like Michael was saying before, give me a good bookshelf. It's the same tweeter, it's the same mid-range. Yes, it's missing that last big driver, but guess what? That's what I got a subwoofer for. That bookshelf basically sounds the same as that, floor standing speaker does, minus the bass region. And now I can invest that money instead into more subwoofers or more whatever else. And I'm still going to end up with the same great sound. And by putting in the acoustic, the proper acoustic panels, room treatments, and the rest, I'm going to enjoy that room a lot more. And the amount of times I walk even into a showroom where it's literally just a square box with slap echoes that are lasting 2-3 seconds. And I'm like,
Right.
How are you going to justify selling a pair of $20,000-$30,000 speakers in this room when the reality is, yeah, the direct sound still sounds good and you're doing this and that, but the room has so many issues in it that it's going to sound different. Or the reverse, you've got a room that sounds great at the dealer, right? Because they've done the acoustic treatments, but they're more worried about selling the speakers and the rest than about doing the proper design, because that often takes a lot more work and knowledge. And you end up putting those speakers in a room in your house, in your family room, in a big open area or in a small little box, and it doesn't sound nearly as good as it should. I think those are things that's why you need to be able to trust people in where you go and who you talk to, because it's that knowledge, and that passion that really is going to dictate the quality of the system, not necessarily the price point, or the brand, frankly.
No, it's I came up in the obviously came up in the late 80s into the 90s, and I went to demos after demo, and nobody spoke a word about acoustic treatments. It was these speakers do, and they probably had them, but nobody said anything about it. So you spend all your time trying to. I know the scenes. I know the Terminator scene. Terminator 2 scene. I tried to duplicate for years and years and years. And it wasn't until I started to learn more about acoustic treatments and everything, and I started to get closer to that perfection that I heard. But to build off of Matt's, his demo rooms, it's like people watch, listen, and read us for the experiences. They're trying to duplicate an experience, and not everybody has the ability to get to Matt's, to get to these places. I mean, Michael's doing M-Wave, and the biggest feature of M-Wave is going there. It's meeting all the people, but two, it's all the different experience he's setting up so that you can experience all of this stuff, because we're all desperate to hear not only whether you might not have a room and you want to know what it sounds like. You might have a room, but you've never heard another room. So is my room good? Is my room bad? Is my room this? I went, like, when I was at CD, I couldn't wait to tell everybody, we are so close. These rooms are awesome, but we aren't far behind. And it's hard to translate that over this, but people need to experience that. And that's why, like, you go to buy a car. Sorry, Brett, we're going back to cars again. You go buy a car. They don't sit you down at a desk and show you pictures and give you stats. They say, get in the car, take it for a ride, because it's all about that experience. And that's what my show's about. But it's all the experience. And what Matt's doing is like, here. And by the time you walk out, you've just turned people in that came in with a budget going, all they're thinking is, I hope this fits my budget. This is amazing, because if it doesn't, I'm gonna make it fit. But that's experience sells, and I think what the internet's full of is everybody's just trying to figure out, what experience do I need? How can I get one? Is mine good? Are there better? What's the difference? And it's literally the entire thing, from lighting to our theaters, to our cars, to it's just our experiences, and we're trying to get everybody else's so we can make our decisions.
No, I agree. It's
Mikey.
We need all the help we can, and we need good help. And I do think, so we'll plug M-Wave in there as well again, for Michael. But the way it gets pitched, and I love it because this is a similar way to how I look at a lot of stuff, and kind of democratizing, knowledge, right? Getting it out to more people. So many of these shows like Cedia, you guys are lucky enough to go to. I know I've actually helped people out at Cedia's before, where I say, when it was in Dallas, I helped a few people out to get in. I'll get them passes and stuff like that.
Sure.
But most people don't get to see these things. They don't get the behind the scenes kind of look. And that's, again, something that I've talked about. And especially with Michael, as we talk about doing tours and stuff, is, we go to see consumer, systems, and that's great. But wouldn't you want to know a little bit more about, let's say, Acoustics or Anthony Gramani, or, some of these different brands, Audio Control, Dirac, we talk about these brands in this sense, and it comes from opinions in it. But, I want to, if I'm picking a brand, I kind of want to know a little bit more about that brand. How engineering focused are they? What are they looking at technology wise? Again, I'm spending my dollars. I want to know that it's kind of going into that right place. And I think those are the things that I hope to kind of do, because from my perspective, it's like, yeah, realistically, I'm blessed in the fact that I can just kind of call somebody up and say, hey, can I get a tour in the back? And realistically, this group could as well, but most consumers cannot, right? You're never going to get a chance, to tour some of these big things. You're probably never going to hear a Keith Yates designed room. You're probably never going to hear a Gramani designed room. I want to make it so it's a little easier to do some of those things, maybe. But the reality is, shows like M-Wave allow the consumer to be the focus of the manufacturer, which I think is hugely important, rather than the integrators and the consumers kind of being left out of it, which you need to do, because otherwise you have way too many people in, and Cedia is a business show. So I'm not saying that it's being done wrong from that perspective. I'm just saying the fact of having a central place is tremendous, Michael.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and Michael, why don't we look at that? So M-Wave, I think you guys are I've been watching all the posts on it. You guys have just gone live in kind of tickets and everything for next year, right? So, what does that look like?
We're 8 months away, and we're like, let's promote it. Let's go forward. And so we started selling tickets the beginning of this month, November 1st. And then December 1st, we'll actually launch all of our home theater experiences. So we've got, I think there's 9 local guys in Kansas City that have some incredible home theaters, and they're all different brands, different things that you can experience, from different projectors, different size rooms. And so attendees can look at that list and go, man, I've always wanted to experience what near field subwoofers or infrasonics. And, this guy's got a big mass. He's got 421s in his room. So I would love to experience that, to see if I want to go that direction in my room, or maybe you just want to have some fun.
Sure.
And so we're making those available December the 1st. And so the show is June the 21st through the 23rd, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's at the Kansas City Convention Center, and it's open to whoever. We've got one of my patrons is from the UK. He was on my Zoom just this past Sunday night, and he has already booked his flight. He's already booked his hotel. So we have last year, or this, well, technically, I guess it's this year, but our last M-Wave in June of this year, we had folks from Canada. We had folks from Puerto Rico, and then we had folks from Hawaii. Wow. So it's just pretty cool to see that people this is a need. I mean, we don't have a consumer facing home theater focused event. Most of them are 2-channel, and maybe if we're lucky, we get a couple of rooms that are home theater focused, but nobody's doing home theater. And so we're just trying to provide some things that are unique to that industry, and also even just some blind testing. Blind testing is not only fun, but it's very educational and eye-opening. What we think we want or like sometimes is placebo. Sometimes it's our brain telling us we hear or see things that maybe we don't. And so we're willing to put, some really current key projectors side by side, and you decide as a consumer what you value most. what fits your budget. Put some subwoofers side by side. Let's do some comparisons.
Yeah.
You know, how do they compare? Same thing with speakers, and we even did it was a speaker cable comparison, and we called it Find the Coat Hanger, and we legit had a coat
I
hanger.
love this.
Oh, it was crazy. And the coat hanger, surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, came in first or second in every test from the attendees. And one guy he didn't really storm out, but he left. He was kind of mad. He was like, he was certain that he would be able to tell in a blind test the $4,000 or $6,000 cable versus a coat hanger, and he was not able to do that successfully. So, but we're willing to just do that, not only just to have some fun and to provide some experiences that you literally aren't going to get at CEDIA, you're not going to get at Axpona or some of these other great shows, but we're just trying to carve our own niche and really meet the needs and desires of the home theater community. So we're super pumped about it. This is our third year doing it, and we continue to get feedback every year and look at it and go, okay, how can we take what we've already got and make it even bigger and better and more value to the consumer?
I love it. Like I said, I look forward. I will be there in some capacity, guaranteed. So, like I said, I'm all for it. I think these things are important. You know, it again fits in line with everything that I've said. You know, online is great because we can reach a lot more people, but being able to get your hands on it. I mean, I can tell you all the things in the world and why it's better, but the reality is you got to be able to hear it, you know, and I don't think there's enough places that are doing, you know, blind tests. And I understand why, you know, when you get into these shows, you know, having just come out of CEDIA, it's tough. You know, you can set up a 2-channel room. Now, again, acoustics may not be right, this and that, but 2-channel can sometimes be a little bit more direct, meaning I got one captain chair, I tow it in, and I'm listening. The room still plays a huge piece of it, but from a demo perspective, it's a little bit more accommodating. But when you get into theaters, it's a lot of work, you know, to get it set up right. If I want Atmos speakers, I got to get up on the ceiling and I got to do this and that. And, you know, we built one, we had a great video that we did for Sound Room 10. It was called 30 hours because it's like basically you've got, you know, 30 hours to build a booth. You know, that you're going to end up having 1,000 people run through, right? You know, and it has to sound its best because realistically you just spent as a brand, you know, anywhere between $250,000 and $500,000 to $1 million on building a room, you know, and it's expensive, right? You know, and so it's one of those things where to do it right is difficult. So when I see things like M-Wave where vendors are coming out because they see the value of it, and they see that these consumers are going to be here. You've created the demand and you've created the supply, a location that people can go to that manufacturers are then willing to support.
Yeah.
I think that's hugely important because there's a lot of shows. I do a lot of local shows, you know, again, but you know, they're like little mini CEDIAs, but they're still trade shows, you know, and so I love the ideas of this. I love always supporting, like I said, true good demo showrooms locally because you still need a partner. When you love this stuff, you still want to be able to go in and look at new products and check stuff out, or if I need support, you know, programming my lights or doing things like that. So I do think in a lot of situations, it's important to have an integrator there. Even as much as we love to do DIY, there's some point where it gets a little past what we can do to get the best.
Yeah. And there's some people that don't want to go the DIY route. They'd rather just have somebody come in like Matt,
people, right?
Matt, I don't want to have to figure all this stuff out and do the homework.
I want to enjoy my movies.
Cash, and let's make this thing happen, and then show me how to make it work and how to use it, and then I'll just enjoy it. So I think there's always going to be a market for both sides. The guys that just want to, I want every aspect of it. Like me, I want to be able to control my remote and program, and I'm in there now, sadly with the Harmony, you know, still working with it, waiting on who's going to replace it.
Man, I got that Harmony going on still as well.
Yeah, but there are plenty of people that are like, man, I want control forward. When I hit this, it always is going to work. I don't have to figure it out. I don't want to fool with it. I don't have to troubleshoot it. My wife, my kids, anybody that comes in there, it makes it
Boom.
really obvious how to make this thing work.
Yep.
So,
And that's the automation level that people don't always understand,
Mhm.
right? Or there's
Right.
frustrations. And again, this comes into it. And pick your brand, it doesn't really matter. But when you get into control systems, because there's random people out there, there's businesses that went out of business for whatever reason, and this that. So you see these complaints online about people not getting support. I can't get my stuff, or I just need to add a new DVD player. Not that happens too often now, but
Right.
whatever the device is, right? My latest streaming device. And it's going to cost me $400, or I got to have a guy do a truck roll. And it's interesting because having been on the integrator side, the manufacturer side, and the consumer side, for again 23 plus years, I see all three perspectives. And what I always find funny is it's like, well, it cost me $400 to do it, and that's it's crazy and it's robbery. And at the same time, I'm going, yeah, but that integrator is not making a lot of money on that $400. They'd guarantee you they'd rather be doing some new design than sending a truck roll out to go out and service these things. Yeah. It's a lose-lose for everybody, right? You're not happy because you feel like you're spending the money. The integrator's not happy because that's not what they want to do either, to change one product out.
Exactly.
But the technology, again, has changed so much, especially in the last 5+ years. And this is where I find, people read old threads, or people are like, yeah, when I did this 10 years ago and it sucked. Yeah. It's changed a lot. And, I won't go too deep into it this time, but Matthew, maybe we'll talk about this in another setup, because I want to talk controls at some point. But nowadays, we have the capability that even probably 6-8 years ago, you couldn't, to be able to remotely program systems. And Harmony was actually one of the first. When I was at Harmony, I was programming other people's systems for them. We could do it before Control 4. And that's because they're more protected in how they do stuff. And not anybody could just do it, but like I could, coming from Logitech. So people would call me up, or I'd see them in the forums. They're like, I can't get this to work. And I'd literally log into their system and reprogram it for them. And it was kind of fun. But now, guys like Matthew can sit there and I don't know what he charges so much, but in my mind, as I look through this, he doesn't have to be there. If you already have a Control 4 system, now you should be using your own guy. So I'm not preaching to, go back and forth and this and that. But as you're picking your guy, they should be able to do things like that remotely and charge you less for it than an in-person truck roll. And that's something that, like in my mind, if I'm talking about how you pick an integrator, those are questions that you should be asking. Because yes, it should cost you less money, and now you're not going to worry about it as much. But if you're not picking a control system because you're afraid that something's going to change down the line and you have to pay to upgrade that, that's not a good reason not to do it. Because I guarantee you that lighting control that you're going to use every day, multiple times a day, or that shade control, or that whatever it is, TV control and the rest, far outweighs that one-time charge. But at the same time, if we can do it because I don't have to roll a truck, because I can do it from another job site, and it's only going to take me 10 minutes. It sucks to roll a 2-hour truck roll for a 10-minute fix. Like, did you turn it off and turn it on again? And that happens all the time. So integrators have to charge, but then everybody's upset, right? So, Matthew, I know you do quite a bit, and I see you in the forums talking about, hey, I can help you out with this remotely.
I do a ton of remote programming.
Benefit for people?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very good fit for people. And a big benefit of that is, you can pick who you want, who you like as your integrator to do your Control 4 programming, because, anything can really be done remotely. As far as, programming, setup, even controller registration, all of that can be handled in such a way where, you can program remotely. So, honestly, even if somebody is an hour away from me, absolutely, I will charge them less, and I will sit in my office, the same office that I'm sitting in now, and I will set them up. They swapped out a Blu-ray player. Oh, sure, let me swap that out. So in some instances, you may not even charge if it's a very, very quick fix. So. I think it's a very big revolution, just being able to do it remotely. Just to touch on the control system from a DIY standpoint, to share my personal journey, I was very invested in iRule. I don't know if you guys remember iRule. It gave you like restaurant level customization, button anywhere you want. I had probably a couple $1,000s worth of Global Cache iTac devices, both in my previous house and in where I live now. They were going to sunset and then I went over to Logitech, and then Logitech sunset. I've been burned by the DIY side of control. Yeah, just from a personal standpoint, before jumping into Control 4, just in general, I haven't had a great experience with the DIY, with the DIY control options.
I just learned, I had Eddie Trochez, he's an integrator out of New York. He was on my 24 hours. He's a listener of mine. When he came on, I didn't know he was an integrator. He's just a listener. So I had him on, and he was awesome. He was like, you can, like a Control 4, you can bring that down to a level. You don't have to do the whole house. You can simplify. And Brett had I had known that part, but the part I didn't know, and you should have seen the chat. Everybody's like, I can do what? And it was that if you're a DIY guy and you want to mess with it, there's so much. He was like, you can do everything except for you can't connect it and disconnect, right? If I'm summarizing it right, but you can do your macros, you can do all sorts of things on your own, and it's like, but on your end, if I screw something up, I just call you up and I go, Matt, I think I screwed something up. And you go, boom, let me reset you. Boom, you're back to good. Or you just erase or he said, like Eddie was saying, I can even go, just delete, because you can't get rid of everything. You're only going to be able to delete what you did. And it's rock solid. So I think a lot of DIY guys, if they knew that, they might spend whatever it is, like a control. I think he was saying it's like $1,100 to get you going on a single room if you wanted to, But that to me is like, we're all looking at Harmony going away for our theaters, because we're not running our whole houses on a Harmony Elite, maybe, but you're running your theater. To buy a Harmony, and people are considering it, that's $550. You spend, another $500. You got a Control 4, and to your point, Matt, now you've got a demo in your room. You're like, I need this in my living room too, and I need this here, right? Yeah. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's so expandable. It's all of this, and I and as a guy that like, this isn't my house. This house is going to my son when I leave. I'm dying to put a Control 4 in just so I can play with it, but I'm like, I don't want to spend any more money on my son's house, because he's like, come on, Dad. I was like, Joe, you want a Control 4? And he's like, I don't got the money. Well, neither do I. But
that's right.
But I can't wait to play with it, right? And it's like, I just can't wait, and I'm hoping, let it integrate. But I think if more people knew that part, and this is what I see, is that a lot of the integrator, and I don't blame, and that's why I loved what Eddie was doing on my show, is like, a lot of the integrators, you guys make your money off of like a whole house system. You get a call from, DJ going, I'm dying to have $1,000 system. You're like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's like, because you're trying to make a living. So I get that. But to hear guys like you and like Eddie to say to people like us, like, there is a way to do it. It's little known, because nobody wants to roll a truck for the $1,000 system, because you do have to come out and do it. And when people learn that, I think a lot more of us would be like bugging you to come out. Because
I would definitely agree. Yeah.
Ava remotes, Ava Cinema remotes. everybody check those out. They are going to
so Ava, another thing. I have an Ava Cinema remote coming. It has a control brain. The remote itself is the brain, and then they actually rolled out a full control system as well. This little device, I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but I have one. I have their original remotes. I actually deploy them now. If I do a 2-channel room, then I throw in an Ava remote at no charge and have them pull up Rune. So I set it to load Rune in kiosk mode. And it's worked out really well. So you walk into your 2-channel room, you sit down, pull up the Ava remote, boom, your music collection is there. So they're a great company. And what they have coming with that cinema remote, it really could be game changing. I'm excited. I'm waiting for my first order to come. I really am. I can't wait.
Yeah, I fell in love with them at CDS. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Now I'm even more confused.
You need that.
I wish there was a channel to answer these questions.
That's a good idea, DJ. A channel that where the people actually know all the control systems, and and maybe know the right people at Control 4 and Savant.
Run by the guy that knows all the people.
Right?
Yeah.
What would we get?
It is definitely controllers on the list because just like you said, DJ, I think it's a
Oh.
big piece. People don't understand all the steps and that it's not always that much more. And there are integrators that will actually go out and do those single rooms. Obviously, like you said, you know, a lot of integration companies are looking for the big jobs, but there's plenty of smaller guys that are tremendous at what they do that are looking to do those jobs as well, because sometimes smaller jobs are even better because the big jobs take like 2 to 3 years. If you're doing a whole home system and the guy's building his house nowadays, that's 2 to 3 to 5 years commitment that like every 6 months or a year, you have to keep going back to that guy's house to try just ahead of time to do wiring and different loads. Being able to do a room or two is a tremendous business model for a lot of people. So we will absolutely be talking about that. And I want to hit up a comment in here. I saw you guys were answering it, so thank you. But Chris Wilson. So Chris, nice to meet you. I don't know where you found it. I'm assuming you're one of these gentlemen in here, but you were talking about different brands and reviews and things like that. And I understand exactly what you're saying. One of the things I brought up earlier was the want, as I'm talking about technology, and again, a little bit more brand agnostic, although I'll obviously talk about the right brands that fit into those spots. But I want to be able to talk about things technology-wise in a best, better, good scenario. So that, yes, we may be talking about Kaleidoscape on the big end. But although hot topic right now is the PD and our evolution, right? But but talking about the different steps that that are also underneath it, what the differences are. So and then same thing with subwoofers, control systems, everything in there. So I do want to be able to hit no matter where your budget is, not just coming in talking from a brand perspective, but really starting from a technology perspective and how that technology is going to benefit you. And then what products you might find in that level that are going to fit for you. So hopefully, Chris, shoot me a subscribe on the FAQnatics YouTube channel. And as we're loading in new content, I think you'll find a lot of stuff that's not based on some of those brands, but talking about different brands and really more importantly, talking about the technology that you need to understand in order to make those better decisions. So I appreciate the comment in there, as well as everybody else in there. And then AA goes, what's this channel? So, this is, again, it's a launch. Obviously, this is some of your favorite people that you've probably seen elsewhere. Maybe you've seen me on their channels on the other side. But this is actually my brand new FAQnatics channel, where we're going to be talking about a variety of things. In this case, I brought in my favorite home theater people, but we're also going to be talking about, home theater, whole home audio, lighting control, so general smart home technology, security, systems, cameras, things like that. But we're also going to spend time talking about cars, watches, probably liquor as well. In all reality,
That's going to be a fun one.
No. This is kind of my general overview, right? We got movies back here. So this is actually the top 100 movies bucket list by IMDb. On this end, you can see I've actually got my Beatles Abbey Road. That is not just because Beatles fan on the music side. I actually got a chance to do a private tour of Abbey Road when I was at Bowers and Wilkins, because they actually use 800 D3s in Abbey Road for all of their mastering. So kind of cool from that perspective. And I was out there doing an event, and I got a chance to actually check out Abbey Road. Phenomenal, you guys. And so we go into headphones. I've actually got back there, it might be a little harder to see, we'll do it, but I've actually got a Harmony Pro 2400. And that's actually a product that I designed for Harmony that came out right towards the end, designed for integrators, because we needed things that had, if you know the Harmony side, those 2 IR ports on the back, although sometimes you can get the 3-pack or the 6-pack that goes with it. But without discrete IR, it was always kind of lacking. That product actually had 6 IR repeaters on it. Had the ability to run more products, had a little bit more memory. But like I said, I actually designed that product all the way down to the box. I've got headphones that I've built. For some of you guys that know, I ran product development for Monster as we built all the Beats by Dre headphones. So from the very first Beats by Dre headphone till about 2014, then my project and product groups, ran all those products. So I know in groups like this, not always the most accurate sounding, no debate. But when it comes into people in movement and really looking at what catapulted headphones, like I said, it was a blast to be able to use. And then headphones like that one that I built with Nokia were actually heavily tech focused and very accurate. So, and then Wall Street, harkening back to, like I said, kind of the business and finance side of where I kind of got my start. And then, like I said, alcohol and the rest, and watches. I love all these things that it's nice to know a little bit about, right? It's what I always kind of say makes a well-rounded person is you kind of go in there. You don't have to know everything about it. We're not going to be passionate about everything. I picked the worst hobbies, the most expensive hobbies to get passionate about, evidently. But it's flat. So if I can share some of that information in there, I want to hit up different topics in there, and we'll range through. Hey, it's not just the most expensive bottles. What's the best bottle that you can find for under $20, depending on what you want, or what do other people think that they like? I'm hoping to be able to use it as a chance to be able to go and tour some factories. I'm in, on the California side, so I got Napa right here in my backyard. Like I said, we'll hit a whole bunch of different topics as we kind of get into it. So let's see. Any other cool comments in there, you guys? What else do you guys? Anything else we want to talk about before we wrap this up? I know we're getting into 2.5 hours here, so I appreciate everybody.
Hey, approaching my territory.
A bunch of viewers on there still, and a
And
comment.
power.
What'd you say, Giles?
So we got some staying power in this group right here.
That's right. That's yeah. DJ already tested this a couple weeks ago, so
Yeah,
He did
I'll let you know
25
when we
hours.
switch the. I'll let you know when we have to switch the streams.
Right.
I was gonna be like,
6
so
hours,
somebody
8
made a
hours.
comment on Storm Audio. Well, that was Todd.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've got like
that would have been great if you popped it up. Todd has a question.
That's right.
Todd, what do you think?
Somebody said something about their Evo. You guys, like I said, it was great because, like I said, I did a show this morning and I had Matthew Brinkline on from Storm Audio. And I agree. I've always been a big Trinov fan. And again, Trinov gets a lot of credit. I love it because they do so much cool stuff in there and well-deserved. But Storm does a lot of really cool stuff in there too. And frankly, they've been kind of the first to come in with true immersive. So, high channel count, networked audio, which I think is truly the future as we're building these systems. The fact that I could have a processor with up to 32 channels that I could run one Cat6 cable out of to put into a network switch. And then whether it's in the rack, like a lot of us are obviously, kind of doing, or those amplifiers in a whole home audio system might be in various rooms. I can just run one Cat6 cable out to those different amplifiers. I can reconfigure on the fly. So let's say I reverse wiring or I did something that runs in there. I can just literally just switch it digitally. Networked audio is game changing. And so I will probably be cutting up the video that we did today to turn it into some, a little bit more bite size, although this group does have the staying power to go 2 hours, but trying to cut it up so it's a little bit easier for people in certain topics. But again, props to everybody that's doing it. I think you're going to see it more and more. There's another company called Origin Acoustics, which again, great company. And they're coming out with their network amplifiers more for audio distribution because that's a lot of what they do in there. But again, same thing, audio control. This is really where I think most amplification is going. And if you're designing a theater today, you need to be looking at how you can design it in networked audio. And obviously that hits a certain budget range. But if you're not doing it today, then you need to be thinking about it. But just the time and the speed for the integrator to be able to do network calibrations. I mean, the fun part is like Anthony Gramani can dial into your system remotely and recalibrate your system for what you want from anywhere in the world. Like that's kind of nuts. And so obviously getting them in the room can be better, but like worst comes to worst, when you get into things like COVID, when people weren't really going out there as much, he would literally tell you like, here's the microphone, or he'd send it out to you and you'd set it up and connect it. And he'd literally be on FaceTime and he'd be calibrating your room with you. Because most of it's him doing it and he just needs you to move microphones.
Right.
So again, like we were talking about with Control 4 and reprogramming systems with Matthew, networking and tying these things in so that I can remotely support product really not only is a cool feature, but can actually make things more affordable to the consumer. And that's what I like with it as a, kind of an investment. Yeah, you may spend a little bit more, but what you can do with it, the troubleshooting, the bulletproofness and things like that, and just keeping it longer, whether it's storm or turn off, both have great upgrade capabilities, so that you're not always buying new processors every 2 to 3 to 5 years.
Right, that they actually follow up on, by the way.
Yes,
a lot of
they
companies
actually
promise
follow
it,
up on.
they never deliver, but those two actually follow up.
Yep.
What I thought was interesting at Cedia, I'm like walking around and I go, Netgear was there, of course.
Yep.
And they have a home theater version of one of their network, whatever.
The 4820, I think it's called. Yeah.
And I asked the guy, he sees me standing there and I'm looking at it. In my head, I'm going, they're just throwing, it's got to be just one of their other one. They're just calling it a home theater or something. Cause I'm like, what? And I asked him, I'm like, what's the difference between this and like another switcher that you have, like a high end switch that you have? And they're like, well, and he was kind of like looking for something. And I'm like, cause it's network, isn't it, Matt? I'm like, am I wrong? I'm like, do you need a specific
that way it comes
home theater
pre-configured
version?
Yeah, so it comes pre-configured. So the real function of that Netgear switch, and I do Netgear, is the multicast settings are preset. That's really for AV over IP. So once we start looking at the Storm, Evos, and the Trinovs, once Trinov starts rolling out their AV over IP fully, and Storm is already there, then that's definitely going to become a lot more important to consumers, because Netgear has been doing this for a long time and they've really solved all of the bugs. Some of the other switches, I've done AV over IP with some other brands, and it's really challenging because not all multicast settings are the same, and it definitely becomes a huge headache. But Netgear has really, I would say they're the best switches for AV over IP right now.
All right, cool.
I was gonna say a lot of it too comes in. You'll see people that have had issues in the past. A lot of that comes in on the video side. We were talking about that a little bit this morning. But when you get into video, you get into additional issues like EDID and copyright issues on your HDMI cable. That's why you have handshake issues and things like that you don't really have on the audio side. So if you're just running audio in that networked audio system, sometimes it's a little simpler, in getting those things to work. Whereas I've had HD-based HD-based T systems that I've checked, and it's like, hey, this balun works, but only sometimes, or this or that happens. So, this again is where it's important to not only get opinions on it, but if you are working with an integrator, if it's not DIY, make sure that your integrator knows what they're talking about on it, because these are future proofing, right? This is like the Smurf tube that we were talking about before. If I'm buying a network switch now, how bad does it suck if I got to buy another network switch a year or two from now because I didn't think about any of these things, and the difference was $50 or $100, right? And so I think those are the important pieces as we look at this and really being able to figure out which switches work best with which products. And at the end of the day, you don't need your switch to work with 100 different products. You need it to work with the few key brands that you're using in your system now and hopefully into the future, right? So, Michael, I appreciate you tossing that up there for me. You are far better at this than I am. I'm used to talking through it, not posting. I do always reply to comments and chat with people, but that's the one piece. I'm used to doing videos that I can edit afterwards after the live view and put in all those things. So I appreciate it. But yeah, if you hop on there, youtube.com @FAQnatics, you'll definitely want to take a look at it. As Aaron on there, I appreciate that as well. Watches whiskey and cars. That's the way. I feel that way. Throw in some home theater and some movies, and we are all the way
some gains.
That's right, and some gains. That's right. Matthew. That's my 2024. We'll have to chat about that as well. We'll swap some some tips in there, because I definitely got to get back into getting a little healthier. It feels like I'm always running around doing work stuff, but you are too, and I watch you. I don't know about the 4:30 in the morning stuff to do it, but I watch Matthew put up his post, and he's like, big gains, 4 a.m., 4:30. I'm like,
Matthew, were you saying gains or gains?
Yep, gains. Gains. But it's GAINZ, gains for the lifting.
Gains.
Because I heard games because I just got 4K 120 going on in my theater room last night.
Okay.
One little setting, man.
That's
All
right.
right,
That's
well,
right. You
that's
need that
good.
extra gain. We always need to
Yeah.
adjust those gains.
An
So look at that, Chris Wilson. Now we're talking. I love it, Chris. I want to be able to have stuff for everybody. Eddie's on there. Look at that. Drinking some Blanton's right now. So I was on DJ's podcast, and I think I was telling Todd this later. So earlier in the week we were chatting. So it was funny because I went on late, right? I mean, it was earlier my time than for you, frankly, DJ.
Yeah.
But it was like 11 o'clock, right? And then the time change was right around in there.
Yep.
So I was hanging on till the end, and I had told my wife I was going to do like an hour. I figured I'd do an hour or two, right? No big deal. And so I bring in, and again, I've been working probably 80 hours a week plus, and I was working on getting this house ready to rent in San Mateo, and so I'm hopping on there, and I got my little bottle with me because I'm like, it's end of the night, I'm gonna relax a little bit, 2 hours, get a little bit of sleep, be up in 4 hours again. And you don't notice when you're sitting there and you're just sitting, and it's like all of a sudden it was like 4 hours. And it was like 4, 5, 6 pours in there. And so it was definitely a good time in there. But like I said, it's all in good fun. Everybody's having a good time. Hopefully I didn't say anything I wasn't supposed to say.
No, we just got your we got your to-do list.
That's right, we did.
We were like,
I had a lot to do.
remember,
Man.
Todd?
What was it?
We were
I think
like,
I was talking about changing the plumbing like 30
you were
minutes
like,
before or something,
no,
right?
my favorite, I wasn't gonna bring it up, but you brought it up. But my favorite part was like I had gone from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. with a time change in there, and Steve, my co-host, is there. He's like, all right, we gotta get out of here. Anything else? Brett goes, I gotta paint some walls. I gotta do this. He starts going through the to-do list that he has to do in his house before the new tenants come in. I was like, we are all dying laughing, and he's just still going. He's just like telling us everything he has to do. It's all there on YouTube. You can go see it.
That's right.
It was so funny, and I was like, that's the wrap up I was dreaming of, buddy.
There you go. Glad I
really
can help
funny.
you out with that, DJ. Yeah, it's the same tonight, you guys. It's late for everybody. But when I wrap up here, I got to pack and I got to drive back down to San Mateo so that I can finish that list that I didn't finish because I was up with you till 2, 3 in the morning. And I got to finish painting those walls and I got to finish programming those systems.
Yeah. Yep.
And get that Ring security system up and and get all that done. So yeah, I'm driving out there tonight, so I'll get there probably around 11 o'clock midnight. And then work all tomorrow on finishing it up, and then I actually give the guys the keys on Saturday. So then I get to hopefully focus on this house and my channels and my videos and all those kinds of things. So
cool.
Yeah. So let's see here. We slowing down in here at all? Looks like everybody's still going strong. What do we got? So
6A.
There you go. MW. We got to pull this one up. I agree with this.
Yep.
Yeah.
That very white sound. Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
HDMI.
I've never liked HDMI so much.
That's
I
right.
know.
Man,
I no longer have handpick issues anymore.
That's hilarious.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Man.
So Aaron Thomas saying Don would love this discussion, or this discussion that you've been. Is he talking about Don Henderson?
No, Don Dunn.
Oh, Don Dunn. Oh,
He's on Audioholics channel a lot.
Yep.
He's a wild card.
I've done Don's show, and I got to see him at CEDIA as well. He swung by the booth, and so always a good time. I will have to have him on there. He's out in Florida, and his company is a great company. Again, good people as well, and always fun out there. So, let's see here. Subwoofer shootout at M-Wave.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mhm.
So it looks like
Yeah,
we're
we'll
good
have-
there. Okay, you guys. So we got a lot in here. I want to be appreciative of everybody's time. I'll talk forever. I know most of us kind of will as we're having fun with it. Just to kind of recap it. So again, we are kind of kicking off my new channel, FAQnatics. So if you go to YouTube, it's at FAQnatics. So FAQnatics or just channel, I guess. It's not .com, although I do have a .com that'll come out eventually. If you want to reach out to me directly, it's Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at FAQnatics.com. And so, you guys, I appreciate everybody out there. We'll be talking about a lot of stuff. Obviously, home theater and technology is going to come up in this because I love, everybody in here and the topics. We'll cover my home theater as kind of a case study to show people. But I want to go past that. And so the idea is, I've worked on a lot of products in a lot of categories. And so I want to be able to look at all the different categories that people may have questions on. So as we talk about, house stuff, that's fine. As we want to talk about whole home audio, lighting control, shades, outdoor lighting, indoor lighting, even as it comes into finance and questions like that, I want to be able to make it a channel where it's more about the topic than the brands, and teaching people about what they need to know about that topic so that they can make informed decisions. And if we can recommend a few brands that kind of fit into that area and are good, reputable brands, I will probably be doing that. But the idea is really to help educate people on things that I've been fortunate enough to learn about. And if it's something that I don't know, I'm not just going to spout off some opinions or some comments. I'm actually going to do the legwork and get in there and find the right people and the engineers and the manufacturers that are truly experts in that area to be able to talk about it. And so I appreciate everybody that's on this channel, everybody that's been joining us and hanging on with us, and all the comments and engagement. That's great. Everybody that's on this channel, so DJ, Michael, Matthew, Giles, and Todd. As well as Tim, who was on earlier and literally delayed one of his dinners at a trade show that he's at so that he could hop on for an hour. I appreciate everybody jumping on. This has been great. Any final thoughts from anybody? Any last comments or discussion points that we need to hit before we call it an evening?
Someone's asking
Appreciate
about
the invite.
getting gear out to Zimbabwe.
Matthew, we'll let you take care of that.
I have no idea. I have no.
Yeah.
Get a U.S. shipper that can forward.
Yeah. We have to check. Yeah.
So-
Some will, some won't. We have to double check.
I do know, yeah. So there's a lot of legalities about what they call transshipping. So going outside of areas and things like that. If we get into it, Margaret, so if you shoot me an email at Brett@FAQnatics.com, I will reach out. There's actually an integrator that I know in South Africa. Again, I don't know how all the areas reach, but at least I'm looking closer than where we are from here. But Morgan, I believe it's Morgan Irwin, is a great integrator out there. He's in South Africa, I believe, and I'm more than happy to get people introduced. He does a lot of theater stuff. So yeah, if I can help out with any of those, like I said, I'm always happy to. I've got contacts in the UK and across Europe and pretty much wherever anybody needs. So we've got our, I've got Wayne, which Michael knows because he did a video with him out in the Philippines. And so again, I got a good chance to talk with him live while we were at CEDIA, and then some follow-up conversations. So I'm happy to help people wherever I can. Like I said, I'm not an integrator. Really, at this point, technically, I have my license, as I like to do a few things and help a few people, but that's not really my thing that I do. I work on education and training. And so I help manufacturers and I help consumers with their education and engagement. And this is something I've wanted to do. It's always been on the other side. And now I get a chance to be able to do it more directly and cover a wide variety of topics. So, again,
if everybody listening, whatever channel you're on, get this one. Go to FAQnatics. This is what Brett does best. It's like there's two things he loves to do: talk and help people. And that's literally, and that's why we get along so well. It's like when I first met him, he was just like, we just hit it off. We just kept talking and talking. And first thing he said to me, anything you need, you know, you got any questions, I'll help you out. And he does that. And now he wants to do it for everybody on all these different things. And if you don't think he has the bandwidth to do it, test him, because he will. He's good. He's goes to the forums. He's trying to help people by jumping to all these forums. And now he's trying to centrally locate it so he can help the most people. And it's like, I mean, and he, like he said, he's not going to do it all by himself. He's going to reach out to the people that he knows, just in what he just said there. I know these people in this country, whatever. It's awesome. So thanks, Brett.
Thank you, DJ. I appreciate that.
That's what you told me to say.
That's right. You know, you're, how do I say that? I'm assuming that's where I send the Patreon or
right. No. Brett, you're awesome. You're awesome. So I just wanted to say that.
Well,
all right.
I appreciate it. We're going to do a lot of cool content in here, you guys. You guys are always welcome anytime on my channels. And MW, Brett, do you have sponsors? I do not. Are you offering? I don't know. That's everyone exactly how I work.
They're like,
brought
what?
to you by MW. BMW? No, just MW.
Here we go.
Comes the memo.
We'll throw a little B on the front of that. We're all good to go, right?
Yeah.
So no, that's not really how I work. Obviously I do, and I'm always upfront about stuff as I've gone on to other people's shows, but everybody on here knows, like, I would go on for Kaleidoscape. We talk about 10, 15 minutes on Kaleidoscape, answer questions, but then we were talking about theaters and lighting and everything else. So I do, from my business side, I work with some manufacturers and some integrators to help them with their training, with their engagement. So if you're a manufacturer, they may need to train their sales reps or their dealers, make online training content. That's kind of what I do. Or help integrators with some of their content, like if they need to write a case study. But like I said, that's not what this channel is. This is really just designed to be educational. And in general, like I said, there might be something in there. If there's ever a sponsorship, I'll be sure to call it out, because I don't think that that's always bad. These sites have to run. That's a reality. But I'm fortunate, like a lot of these guys, where I have another job. Mine is just self-employed at this point. You know, but like I said, this is just fun stuff that I love to do. And so not really asked. Let's see. JTR versus Ascendo. Okay. I hear you, MW. You know, again, sometimes I think it comes into too. It depends on the room. It depends on a lot of other stuff. So I may have missed in the threads. We'll talk about subwoofers. We'll talk about a lot of stuff. But really what you should be doing first before you're picking a brand is figuring out what you need in the room. And room size and dimension is what really dictates how much sub you need, how low you need to go in the room. What are you listening to? What are you doing? And so, you know, again, opinions on JTR versus Ascendo. I have thoughts on it. I'm happy to discuss them when we're not 2.5, 3 hours into it. I won't make everybody sit on there. I'll definitely do a subwoofer, probably multiple subwoofer discussions on here. But you know, like I said, I don't think it's always a refuse to answer. I think a lot of times on channels, it's again, I'm reviewing this product. Obviously the idea isn't to be talking about other products. And so I think it's just trying to figure out what's in there. And as Jared said, both are great. And I think that's exactly right. And I think it's just depends on budget, room, all these different things that go into it, rather than just saying one is better than the other. You know, again, it's things like a 50-inch Ascendo look amazing. You know, and again, it's not a dig on it. It's like, is that what everybody needs? No, bigger is not always better. Room design, we were talking about this probably an hour ago. You know, room design, speaker count, where you're putting subwoofers in a room is all going to affect the sound and the quality of that room much more so than one sub brand over the other, because it's like speakers. And again, I won't jump too deep into this, but everybody has an opinion and that's fine. But when people are like, I like the characteristic of this speaker versus that speaker, the reality is, and this is something that John Bowers used to say as the first speakers were coming out. See how I name drop that kind of stuff before my time, but still, your speaker's job is not to color the sound.
Right.
You know, the idea is that the speaker should create the least amount of change as possible to that sound the way that it was intended by, you know, whether we're talking music or movies or whatever. So I always kind of laugh when I'm like, well, this one, now that doesn't mean that one can't be a little more high pitched or this or that, or that different tweeter materials do change the characteristics. But at the end of the day, the idea of that room should be that it shouldn't matter what the brand of the speaker is. It should matter, does that sound right in this room? And does it sound right to my ears? Because the reality is we wish we all had the same ears, and we don't, because we may be losing hearing or this or that. But what sounds good does actually sound good. When they've done blind tests, usually a room that sounds right, 85% of the people are going to say that that room sounds right or that system sounds the best. So as much as we like to say one brand over another, I'm a big believer in set the room up right. That's going to dictate the quality, and then buy the products that fit. And sometimes they're all going to make a good product. Pick a brand that you think is supporting you. Pick a brand that when you go into the forums, we were talking about this before, they're going to help support and answer. That's what I want. What I don't want is a brand that I buy a product on, and then that brand couldn't care less about me into the future, right? Or only wants to sell me something new later on. You know, I want brands that are going to be out there and really kind of support, you know, me as a consumer through my journey. And hopefully, as I'm upgrading or doing different things, might be able to help me out with that kind of stuff. So that would be my 2 cents on that. But we will definitely talk about that in upcoming content. So again, be sure to subscribe. And again, we'll have all that kind of information out there. And again, everybody, I appreciate everybody's time. I think we're going to wrap it up here. So thank you to everybody for joining on this side of it. Thank you for everybody that's watching, and definitely subscribe, hit the button, and I will be loading up in the next 2 weeks a fair amount of content, because I got a lot of stuff between the rental property and those projects that I was working on. I got some videos coming from there. I've got videos coming in from the new place. And as we get into wrapping up this year and next year, we're going to have a ton of great content on a ton of great topics.
Nice.
Sweet.
Take
I'm
care,
excited.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brett.
Sweet.
Later, guys.
Take it
Thanks,
easy,
everybody.
Brett.
Have a great night.
All right.
All right, you too.